Chapter 10:20. Bufang Kid, prepare the roast duck for Lord Go. Lord Go is going out to deal with some trouble. He'll be back soon. Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice arose. Bufang was bewildered. Going out to deal with some trouble? What kind of trouble needed Lord Go to deal with it personally? He even asked me to prepare the roast duck, however. Before Bufang could ask more questions, Lord Go strode his cat-like steps, heading out of the restaurant. Shortly after, he disappeared through the door. As soon as Lord Go left, Silverhorn grinned, crawling to Lord Go's place. His face looked intoxicated. "Baby, your dearest Silverhorn is back." Silverhorn looked at Yuji, smiling warmly. At this moment, Yuji was in a good mood. When she knew that Bufang's dishes could subdue the curse in Yu's body, she felt as though a big stone had been lifted from her heart. She felt as though a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. If Bufang's dishes could subdue the curse, she would have enough time to find the method to break it. She would find the source of the curse and destroy it with one slash. She would save you from the torment of the curse. All of a sudden, Jin Jiao, whose mouth was stuffed, furrowed his brows. Luo Ji, who was happily eating the roast duck roll, arched her brows. Silverhorn and Yu Ji were bewildered. The four prison overlords furrowed their brows. They slowed down their movements, turning their heads to look outside the restaurant. A terrifying and familiar aura diffused from outside the restaurant. Facing this aura, they couldn't help but change their countenances. This aura. It's Sir Inglong. Luo Ji stuffed the remaining roast duck roll into her mouth, pouting. This aura. It can't be wrong. Sir Inglong is here. Yuji nodded. Inglong's appearance didn't come as a huge surprise to them. After all, the Lord Go had taken Inglong's Void Eye Scepter away. Inglong had to come and retrieve it. The Void Eye Scepter was the #1 divine artifact among the 5 Hell Overlords. It possessed boundless power and was in charge of Hell's justice. There was no way Inglong would allow it to wander about outside. Looks like we have to go out and take a look. Yuchi carried the Overlord hefty sword on her back. She stood up from her seat, glancing at Jin Jiao and the others. After speaking, he headed outside. Silverhorn hurriedly followed. Jin Jiao and Luo Ji didn't want to leave. The roast duck was so delicious that they didn't want to part with it. Jin Jiao picked up the blue and white porcelain bowl, pouring all the soup into his mouth. The diced spirit herbs entered Jin Jiao's mouth, and as he chewed, crunching sounds rang out, like he was eating carrots. "Oh, not bad," Jin Jiao complimented. Then, his giant body walked out of the restaurant. Shortly after, the 4 great prison overlords disappeared. Outside the restaurant, a white-haired old man with a stooped back silently walked over from a far distance. He didn't tear the void, nor did he shake the world. He just walked in the air, clasping his hands. His cyan robe fluttered in the wind. The old man's eyes were a little turbid, and he didn't look energetic at all. However, his pace was really fast. With one step, he seemed to cross hundreds of miles. In just a blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the Heaven Chief restaurant. Squeak! The restaurant's doors opened automatically. The Lord Go strode his elegant cat-like steps out of the restaurant. Standing at the door, he lifted his head, looking at the old man in the cyan robe hovering in the sky. His mouth twitched, snorting. The Lord Go's body continued to float, slowly ascending. Shortly after, he floated in front of the old man, facing him. "Earth prison dog. Long time no see," the stooped old man said faintly. His voice sounded old. "Stinky dragon." The Lord Go rolled his eyes. A smile appeared on the old man's wrinkled face, which made the hair on the Lord Go's body stand on end. "Give the hollow eye staff back to me. This is the Heaven Chief realm, after all." "I don't want to fight," the old man said. After saying that, the old man lifted his head. In just a blink of an eye, he felt the whole world become dark. The old man's eyes were golden in color, and his pupils were as sharp as a knife, slicing horizontally. The Lord Go yawned. He didn't mind the old man's gaze. You think I, the Lord Go, am scared? You dare to stare at the Lord Go? Now that the hollow eye staff is with me, shouldn't you lower your voice and talk to me, the Lord Go? The Lord Go raised his dog paw, moving his fingers. In the restaurant below, the door was pushed open one more time. Jin Jiao and the others appeared. Looking at the man and the dog facing each other in the void, they couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. Yinglong's eyes turned, falling on the four Earth prison overlords. You guys are really good. Seems like you're enjoying your meal, Yinglong said in a hoarse voice, his wrinkled face smiling. Jin Jiao hurried to swallow the food in his mouth. He straightened his back, not daring to breathe loudly. Then, Yinglong looked at the Lord Go one more time. You mangy dog. Why are you clinging to my hollow eye staff? You can't control it. Give it back to me. So domineering. The Lord Go grinned. However, before he could finish his words, Yinglong moved. His stooped body appeared in front of the Lord Go as if he had teleported. His palm, which looked like a withered tree, reached toward the Lord Go. Rumble at this moment, the void shook, shaking hard. With a slap, the Lord Go's figure disappeared. However, Yinglong's palm had smashed the void where he used to be. Stinky dragon! You dare to attack me? The Lord Go roared. A moment later, his paw slapped. There was a loud bang. The Lord Go sent Yinglong's figure flying, soaring into the sky. The Lord Go leaped high, chasing after him. In the void, a man and a dog were fighting. Down below, Jin Jiao and the others were watching with great interest. Yuji, your fighting competence is the strongest. Can you tell who's stronger between Sir Yinglong and the Lord Go? Jin Jiao wiped his mouth, asking with interest. Luo Ji rolled her eyes at Jin Jiao discontentedly. Of course, my idol is stronger. That old fart Yinglong. Yin Jiao pursed his lips, looking at Yuji. Whatever my baby says. Yuji was a little speechless, looking at the three of them. Then, she lifted her head, looking at the void. Her eyes flashed, as if she could see through the layers of clouds, seeing the battle between the Lord Go and Yinglong. Sir Yinglong often stays in Earth Prison, and he controls a part of Earth Prison's origin. If he cultivates according to Earth Prison's origin, his cultivation base shouldn't be weaker than the Lord Go's, Yuji said. The Lord Go leaves Earth Prison often, so his cultivation base might be lacking. Moreover, the Lord Go was wounded severely. So, you mean that the Lord Go can't defeat Sir Yinglong? Asked Jin Jiao. Yuji's face twitched. Eventually, she nodded solemnly. Yes, Sir Yinglong should be slightly stronger. Boom! As soon as she finished, the void suddenly trembled. A moment later, a figure fell from the sky, pounding hard on the ground. The ground exploded with a loud rumble, continuously shattering. The air suddenly quieted down. The four people standing in front of the restaurant were dumbstruck. After a long time, Jin Jiao blinked his eyes. If I'm not mistaken, the one who fell was Sir Yinglong. It's only been a few seconds. Jin Jiao grinned. In the void, the Lord Go strode with his elegant cat-like steps, raising his dog paw. His arrogant and disdainful eyes looked down. Rumble, crushed stones rolled. Yinglong's figure crawled out of the rubble on the ground. He stooped and coughed. After a while, Yinglong lifted his head, his cold eyes gazing at the Lord Go. You black dog. I haven't seen you for many years, but your power has increased. Seems like your wounds have healed well. The Lord Go's mouth twitched. Raising his exquisite dog paw, he didn't say much, slapping at Yinglong. Even the void was trembling. It began to shake violently. A dog's paw that was completely condensed from pitch-black nether energy suddenly slammed down toward Winged Dragon. A terrifying pressure and aura diffused. The four people standing in front of the restaurant felt their minds shiver. Worthy of being Luo Ji's idol. Luo Ji was so excited, biting her soft lips and balling her fists. Yuji's eyes were filled with fighting will. The Lord Go was her target. One day, she would grow to the level of the Lord Go. Only then would she have the confidence to find the source of the curse on you and cut it off. Actually, Eugene knew it clearly. The source of the curse on you should come from the Nether Prison. It was the most mysterious place in the Netherworld's 3 prisons. She and you were brought back from the Nether Prison by the old Hades. If he wanted to know the source of the curse on you, he had to start from the Nether Prison. However, the Nether Prison was too terrifying. Without the power of the Lord Go, entering the Nether Prison was no different from seeking death. Yu's curse and the old Hades's death were all related to the Nether Prison. Boom. The dog paw landed on the ground. The ground exploded. In the restaurant, Bu Fong waved his hand, walking out of the restaurant. The Lord Go's battle had piqued Bu Fong's interest. The naked Realm Lord Dit was also chewing on a roast duck roll, leaning against the door, watching the battle with interest. Nethery, who was at Bu Fong's side, also looked into the distance. The Lord Go's exquisite dog paw landed, and a terrifying hurricane blew. At this moment, the entire immortal city was panic-stricken. All of a sudden, an ear-splitting dragon roar rang out. The smoke and dust on the ground dispersed, and the nether energy dog paw was torn apart. On the ground, a giant creature emerged. A terrifying Yinglong. Its pitch-black wings flapped, and there were even ferocious bone spikes on its wings. The pitch-black scales on its body bloomed with divine light. Its neck stretched out, and the dragon opened its mouth, letting out a furious roar. The dragon's mouth was full of sharp teeth, spewing black flames. Its strong and powerful limbs smashed on the ground, full of explosive power. Mangy dog! Return this old man my hollow eyes! The dragon roared. A moment later, its wings flapped, and Yinglong's giant body shot up into the sky. A dragon flame spewed out, burning toward the Lord Go. A dragon and a dog fought once again, reaching the sky. The vault of heaven turned gray. Thunderous booms echoed unceasingly. Many people were watching the battle. Lord Yinglong transformed into his true form. Seems like he's really angry, Jin Jiao said in shock. As the Earth Prison overlords, they rarely had the chance to see Yinglong's true form. Once Yinglong transformed into his true form, it meant that Yinglong was going to use his full power. Earth Prison Yinglong, the strongest Earth Prison overlord in charge of Earth Prison's justice. TSK, TSK, TSK. Too bad, he met that mangy dog. The Heaven Chief Realm's heavenly path got bitten. Even the strongest Earth Prison overlord would have to suffer, Realm Lord Dit said as he shoved the duck roll into his mouth. Bu Fong looked at Realm Lord Dit. You mean that the Lord Go should be able to win? Of course. He's a dog that can match this Realm Lord. Realm Lord Dit puffed out his chest, placing his hands on his waist as he said arrogantly. Bu Fong looked at him, his face emotionless. If he remembered correctly, the Lord Go had beaten this crazy man until his face was swollen. It seemed that Bu Fong's gaze sent chills down his spine. Realm Lord Dit changed his posture, looking at Bu Fong. Little chef, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about becoming my apprentice. How about it? I can see that your innate talent isn't bad. Under my tutelage, I'm sure you can break through to the Qilin chef realm. Apprentice? Tutelage? The corners of Bu Fong's mouth twitched, glancing at Realm Lord Dit. Not interested. Realm Lord Dit was bewildered. Suddenly, the void boomed. A moment later, a black dog grabbed the giant winged dragon's head and smashed it to the ground. Boom. Everybody was shocked. Chapter 10:21. Everyone was shocked. The entire city was shocked. The scene that happened had already shaken the entire immortal city. The aristocratic families in the inner circle were all attracted by this battle. They watched from afar, their eyes filled with shock. After witnessing the Lord Go's fighting ability, Tong Wudi and the other family heads were even more shaken. This dog was as terrifying as ever. Fortunately, they didn't choose to attack it. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how to write the word death now. This black dog was really too strong. Tong Woody's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with deep fear. Not attacking that mortal chef with that black dog was the wisest decision we made. Let's go according to plan. Tong Woody heaved a sigh and said to the patriarchs of the other aristocratic families. This storm didn't cause too much of a stir. The onlookers were separated by the city lord's mansion. Hence, for a moment, they didn't know what was happening. Many onlookers saw a dragon. They saw the legendary dragon being suppressed by a black dog. Many people were shocked, thinking that their eyes were playing tricks on them. However, after the city lord's mansion guards chased them away, the onlookers gradually dispersed. The battle seemed to be over. In front of the restaurant, everyone was watching the ruins with billowing smoke and dust. Among the ruins, a black dog walked out with enchanting cat-like step. Its tail wagged, showing that the Lord Go was very happy at this moment. On the ground, a trembling figure crawled up. Ing Long had once again returned to his human form. However, this time, he was no longer as calm and composed as before. His face was bruised and swollen, and the green robe on his body was even more tattered. However, the old man was holding a pitch-black scepter in his hand. It was the hollow-eye scepter. Although Ing Long was seriously injured, he still used some tricks to retrieve the scepter from the Lord Go. Holding the scepter, Ing Long's nose was bleeding, and his face was a little black. Although Ing Long wanted to flare up, when he thought about the Lord Go's current strength and cultivation, he decided to let it go. The black dog's injuries had healed quite well, and its battle prowess had grown even stronger. There was no need to fight with this mangy dog until both sides suffered. Besides, this mangy dog hasn't even used his full strength. Can't you see that he hasn't even revealed his true form? Lord Ing Long, are you all right? Jin Jiao looked at Ing Long, who was trembling and holding the hollow-eye scepter, and asked cautiously, "What could possibly happen to me? It's just a small injury, not worth mentioning." Ing Long wiped his nosebleed, showing an indifferent expression on his old face as he glanced at Jin Jiao. "On the other hand, have you had enough fun? It's time to return to Hell. As Hell Masters, there are still a lot of things waiting for you to deal with," Ing Long said. The faces of Jin Jiao and the others changed, smiling awkwardly. Ing Long leaned on the scepter, looking deeply at the Lord Go. "What are you looking at? Do you still want to fight?" The Lord Go was lying in front of the restaurant, his mouth twitching as he said faintly. Ing Long slammed the scepter, anger surging in his heart as he glared at the Lord Go. The man and the dog's gazes collided in the air. "One day, Lord Go, I will rip off your stinky dragon wings and make sweet and sour dragon ribs for young Bufang." The Lord Go snorted. Ing Long's eyes widened, anger appearing on his face. "Cough cough. Lord Go, the meat on the wings isn't suitable for making sweet and sour dragon ribs. I'm afraid you have to change the position. For example, the meat in the middle of the wings. That's not bad." Bufang looked at the Lord Go and kindly reminded him. The Lord Go was a little bewildered. He only knew that the sweet and sour dragon ribs were delicious, but he didn't know that the meat was so picky. As Ing Long watched the man and the dog chatting about which part of his body was suitable for making sweet and sour ribs, the anger in his heart surged. However, he was a wily old fox. As the Earth Prison's administrator, he was still shrewd. After calming down his raging state of mind, Lin Fanninglong glanced at Bufang and the Lord Go. Turning around wielding the scepter, he tore a hole in the void. "All of you, go back to Earth Prison." Ing Long looked at the 4 Earth Prison overlords, snorting coldly. Then, he stepped into the void, disappearing. Jin Jiao rubbed his head, grinned, and licked his lips. He wanted to savor the roast duck roll. He didn't think that he would have to go back now. However, since Ing Long had spoken, they had to obey. Thus, Jin Jiao stepped into the crack first. Luo Ji waved at the Lord Go. "Idle. Luo Ji is leaving. You must miss her." "Idle, Luo Ji is leaving. Can you fulfill a small request?" The Lord Go looked at Luoji, his mouth twitching. No. I'll beat you up if you ask again. He didn't need to guess to know that this woman wanted the dog's fur. The smart Lord Go had already seen through everything. Hey, you mangy dog. You're so stingy. It's just a strand of dog fur. It's not easy for that little girl to come here, right? Realm Lord Dit said solemnly as he approached the Lord Go. Do you want to fight? If the fur doesn't grow on your body, you won't feel heartache, right? The Lord Go glared at the Dit Realm Lord, snorting coldly. I don't feel bad. The Dit Realm Lord ran his fingers through his blonde hair, his eyes blurry. To this, the Lord Go rolled his eyes. Not getting Lord Go's dog fur, Luoji was a little down. She felt betrayed. Covering her face, she dashed into the crack, returning to Earth Prison. Baby, Yin Jiao is waiting for you. We'll go together. I'll accompany you. Yin Jiao came to Yu Qi, blinking his eyes. Yu Qi looked at Yin Jiao, her face emotionless. A moment later, the heavy sword fell into her hand. She furiously slashed at Yin Jiao. Bang! Yin Jiao was sent flying, entering the crack. Little girl, good aim. The Dit Realm Lord's eyes brightened. Yu Qi didn't mind the Dit Realm Lord. She walked directly to Bufang, her eyes gazing at Bufang. Bufang was a little flustered under her gaze. Buzz! A moment later, the formation that was used to check the curse on you emerged in Yu Qi's hand. Give me your hand, Yu Qi said to Bufang. Bufang didn't have a choice but to extend his Taotai arm. The formation disappeared into Bufang's Taotai arm. Yu Qi exhaled. This formation can check the situation of the curse on you. You have to pay attention to it. If the curse turns purple, bring you to Earth Prison to find me. If the cursed snake wakes up, you have to use your food to suppress it, Yu Qi advised. As Yu's older sister, she didn't want anything bad to happen to you. Bufang nodded. If you stayed, Bufang would definitely suppress the curse on you. After saying that, Yu Ji's eyes fell on Nethery. She reached out her hand, patting Yu's head. Wait for me. I will definitely help you destroy the source of the curse, Yu Qi said. Yu nodded. Then, Yu Qi didn't do anything else. She turned around and walked toward the void crack. When she reached the entrance, she seemed to remember something. She turned to look at Lord Go. Believe in Lord Go, and you will have eternal life. Roar. With a roar, Yu Qi stepped into the crack. Lord Go was startled. He was bewildered. After the Earth Prison overlords left, the scene became a little quiet. Gongshu Baiguang and the others looked at the scene, not daring to breathe loudly. Realm Overlord Dit flicked his hair, his eyes blurry. It's almost time for this Realm Overlord to go back. Little brother Bufang, your dishes aren't bad, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. Are you really not going to consider becoming this Realm Overlord's disciple? It's free training. Realm Overlord Dit's eyes eagerly fell on Bufang. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. Training your sister? Not even if you beat him to death. I refuse, said Bufang. All right, it's a pity. There was a sincere feeling in front of you, but you didn't cherish it. Realm Overlord Dit rubbed his forehead, sighing. A moment later, he looked at Bufang again, pointing at his eyes and then at Bufang. Little brother, this Realm Overlord favors you. We will meet again. I hope that the next time we meet, you can give me more surprises. Realm Overlord Dit smiled. His handsome face had golden hair hanging down. Then, Realm Overlord Dit walked to the ruins outside the restaurant. Glancing at Lord Go, who was lying on the ground, he snorted arrogantly. Boom! The ground suddenly trembled. Realm Overlord Dit posed as if he was thinking. His naked body bloomed with holy light, shooting up into the sky like a cannonball. Soon, he turned into a star in the sky. After flashing for a while, he disappeared. This Realm Overlord will miss you, little brother Bufang, a wave of echoes echoed. Bufang's mouth twitched. Was there something wrong with his brain? Everyone turned around and returned to the restaurant. On Lord Go's seat, there was a piece of roast duck roll. Lord Go was happily eating it. The realm overlord had left, but Gongshu Baiguang and City Lord Mu Yang hadn't left yet. This made Bufang a little surprised. Since the roast duck was finished, and the mad realm overlord had left, what else did they want to do? Facing Bufang's slightly doubtful gaze, Gongshu Baiguang and City Lord Mu Yang exchanged looks, seeing the light in each other's eyes. Cough, cough, City Lord Mu Yang coughed dryly, then looked at Bufang with a serious expression. Owner Bu's cooking skills are really good. Among the younger generation, he can be considered one of the best. Bufang didn't say anything, just looking at City Lord Mu Yang. Facing the City Lord, Bufang's attitude wasn't bad. After all, not long after, Bufang planned to go to the Mu family to kidnap a future apprentice to complete the system's temporary task. After completing the temporary task, he would receive the enhanced abyssal chili sauce as a reward. The current abyssal chili sauce couldn't keep up with Bufang's pace. Would this enhanced version surprise Bufang? Owner Bu, it's like this. I have a request. City Lord Mu Yang smiled as he said to Bufang. What is it? Bufang was slightly bewildered. Today, I saw Owner Bu's cooking skills, and it's really amazing. Not long after, the Heaven Chief Realm's quadrennial Heaven Chief competition among the younger generation will begin. I want Owner Bu to represent the first layer of the Heaven Chief Realm. City Lord Mu Yang said. Participate in the competition? Bufang was stunned, then pursed his lips. Boring. What's the benefit of participating in the competition? Bufang asked. Of course there are benefits. If Owner Bu can enter the top 100 in this competition, it will be a supreme glory. City Lord Mu Yang said. Glory can help me improve my cooking skills? If that's the only benefit, participating in the competition is simply a waste of time, Bufang said with an expressionless face. In the distance, Gongshu Baiguang furrowed his brows, then said, If Owner Bu is talking about rewards, then of course there will be rewards. The top 50 in the Heaven Chief competition will receive immortal ingredients from the Heaven Tree as a reward. The higher the ranking, the higher the grade of the immortal ingredients. The top 10 in the Heaven Chief competition will have a chance to enter the space of the Heaven Tree to comprehend the cooking path. Moreover, the rewards will be more generous. Gongshu Baiguang said. I heard that the reward for the first place is a top-grade immortal ingredient, true dragon meat. True dragon meat? Bufang's mind suddenly froze, and he raised his head. A moment later, the serious voice of the system resounded in Bufang's head. Chapter 10:22. The system's solemn voice rang out at this moment. Bufang was a little dumbstruck. Why did the system's voice always sound so coincidental? According to the current situation, the system wanted him to participate in the competition again. However, the prize for the champion of this competition was actually true dragon meat? That was a true dragon. A divine beast true dragon should be of a higher level than Yinglong. How could such a level of dragon meat appear here? Temporary mission. Host, please participate in the Heaven Chief World's Young Heaven Chief competition. Enter the top 10 and obtain the qualification to enter the space of the Heaven Tree and obtain the seed of the Heaven Tree in the space of the Heaven Tree. Temporary mission reward. The qualification to fuse with the immortal flame. What? Bufang was a little surprised. The system's mission this time wasn't to let him become the champion of the competition? According to Baiguang, as long as he entered the top 10, he would be qualified to enter the space of the Heaven Tree. However, he was supposed to enter the space of the Heaven Tree to comprehend the Great Path. How did it become entering the space of the Heaven Tree to obtain the seed? The seed of the Heaven Tree. It sounded like an extraordinary thing. And this time, the reward was the qualification to fuse with the immortal flame. Such an illusory thing. Had the system learned how to get something without risking anything? Temporary mission. Host, please participate in the Young Heaven Chief World's Heaven Chief competition and condense the Heart of Cooking path. Temporary mission reward. a fragment of the god of cooking set. However, before Bufang could pull himself together, the system's voice rang out again. This time, the voice made Bufang completely dumbfounded. Another temporary mission. 2 temporary missions appeared at the same time. This wasn't like the system's style. Condense the heart of cooking path. What is the heart of cooking path? Bufang furrowed his brows, feeling somewhat puzzled. He asked the system, but the system didn't answer him. Apparently, it wanted him to figure it out himself. The reward of the second temporary mission made Bufang even more excited. A fragment of the god of cooking set. Bufang had collected 4 fragments of the god of cooking set. With 1 more fragment, he could exchange for the next god of cooking set. Therefore, Bufang suddenly felt that he was determined to get this reward. Rubbing his chin, Bufang fell into deep thought. Gongshu Baiguang and City Lord Mu Yang looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. Was Bufang moved? It seemed that it was possible to persuade Bufang to participate in this competition. Based on Bufang's previous cooking skills, he was able to trigger 3 thunder tribulations, which was considered pretty good among the younger generation of the Heaven Chief realm. At the very least, it shouldn't be a problem to enter the top 100. The Heaven Chief realm was divided into 5 levels. The first level was the lowest level of the Heaven Chief realm. It couldn't be helped. After all, it was due to the terrain. The higher one climbed, the more resources the Heaven Tree provided. At the bottom of the Heaven Tree, the resources were pitifully little. In the previous Heaven Chief Realm Youth Heaven Chief competition, the best result in the first level of the Heaven Chief Realm was only the 90th place. And in the recent Heaven Chief Youth competition, it was even worse. None of them entered the top 100. This had seriously affected the atmosphere of the first level of the Heaven Chief Realm, the Heaven Chief Realm, and this was the one where they had the best chance, because there were many monstrous geniuses among the big families this time. Whether it was the Zhang family, the Tong family, or the Gongshu family, their young Heaven Chief geniuses were all very talented. Therefore, this year's competition had the best chance to enter the top 100. Moreover, there was also Bufang, the Heaven Chief, who could trigger 3 thunder tribulations. Owner Bu, what do you think? City Lord Mu Yang's mouth curved into a smile, looking at Bufang. They really hoped that Bufang could participate in the competition. No matter what, they had seen Bufang's talent with their own eyes. Participate? Sure, but I have a small request. Bufang suddenly looked at City Lord Mu Yang, saying casually, "What request? As long as it's within my ability, I will agree." City Lord Mu Yang frowned. "It's not a difficult request. Although my restaurant has just opened, I still lack an apprentice chef. Thus, I want to find an apprentice chef," said Bufang. When City Lord Mu Yang heard this, he was stunned. He looked at Gongshu Baiguang and the two looked at each other. What kind of request was that? In the distance, Gongshu Ban, Mu Luer, and the others were also a little suspicious. Owner Bu always did things beyond people's expectations. So, Owner Bu wants to find an apprentice chef? Sure, I can ask all the talented special grade chefs in the city for you to choose, said Mu Yang. To be honest, Bufang's request wasn't really a request. It was even simpler than asking for an immortal ingredient. However, Bufang shook his head. His eyes were a little strange as he looked at City Lord Mu Yang. That look made City Lord Mu Yang startled. You want me to be your apprentice chef? That's impossible. City Lord Mu Yang shook his head, waving his hand. Although I'm the weakest among the 5 great city lords of the Heaven Chief Realm, it's because the previous city lord had fallen. I was in a hurry to take over, so I didn't have time to practice my cooking skills. However, my cooking skills are at the 3rd grade Heaven Chief Realm. I'm afraid that Owner Bu can't afford to be your apprentice chef. City Lord Mu Yang smiled and said. Bufang was a little speechless. This city lord's comprehension ability was a little bit problematic. He was so old, but Bufang still didn't like him. "You're thinking too much. I've already chosen someone, and that person is in your Mu family," said Bufang indifferently, his face expressionless. "I agree to participate in the competition. Come and find me when the competition starts. Ha ha ha, if it's not me then it's easy. You can choose any young generation in my Mu family. It's their honor to be able to become Owner Bu's apprentice chef." City Lord Mu Yang laughed, stroking his beautiful beard. Then, under Bufang's gaze, the crowd left. In the distance, Lord Go had already finished eating the roast duck roll, licking his claws. Hua was in a deep sleep, and she hadn't woken up yet. The Black Dragon King was there with her. Yu quietly followed behind Bufang. After the crowd left, the restaurant became a little quiet. Bufang pulled a chair, curling up in front of the restaurant. He exhaled contentedly. The quietness and comfort after being busy were the most enjoyable. "Bufang, young man, are you really going to participate in the Heaven Chief competition?" In the distance, Lord Go, who was lying on the ground, suddenly asked Bufang. Bufang was curled up in the chair, looking quite lazy. "Yeah, then you brat, you have to work harder. There are many benefits if you can enter the space of the Heaven Tree. If it weren't for the fact that the Heaven Tree doesn't welcome Lord Go would still want to enter the space of the Heaven Tree to play," said Lord Go. Bufang was slightly stunned. He suddenly remembered that Realm Lord Dit had said that Lord Go had taken a bite of the Great Path of the Heaven Chief Realm. That Great Path wouldn't be in the space of the Heaven Tree, right? "I heard that the prize for the first place is true dragon meat. Bufang brat, work harder and win back that dragon meat. Lord Go is waiting for the sweet and sour ribs cooked with true dragon meat. Lord Go has high hopes for you." Lord Go lay on the ground. After eating his fill, Lord Go lazily put his head on the ground, speaking casually. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. This was Lord Go's goal. He wanted to eat the sweet and sour ribs. Anyway, true dragon meat. Bufang suddenly had some expectations. It seemed that he could really win the first place in this competition for fun. Bufang thought to himself. Time flew. The restaurant returned to its usual tranquility. It was still open every day. Since Hua had swallowed a piece of top-grade immortal tofu, he was in a deep sleep. His body was shrouded by a hazy energy. Lord Go seemed to have moved too much the last time, so he had been lying on the ground for the past few days. He was too lazy to move. Nethery was very carefree, walking back and forth in the restaurant. Occasionally, she would return to the Netherworld ship and sit on the deck, pondering about something. This kind of peaceful days made Bufang feel very satisfied. Because he had passed the system's true immortal realm test, Bufang's cultivation base had successfully advanced from the peak of divine spirit realm to the true immortal realm. To others, this was a hurdle that was hard to cross. To Bufang, he had quietly broken through. After his cultivation base had broken through, Bufang's cooking skills didn't change much. His mental energy cultivation base didn't increase that much, but it could still be compared to a 2-star true immortal realm expert. If he fused with the tool spirit in his head, Bufang's mental energy could reach the 3-star or even 4-star true immortal realm. During this period, Bufang began to learn how to use the Golden Lotus demonic flame. This immortal flame had been nurtured by Tong Rua, and it had reached the level of the top 50 immortal flames in the immortal flame ranking. Its power wasn't bad. Bufang was very satisfied. This kind of immortal flame could only be ranked 50th. Bufang was a little curious. How strong and terrifying the immortal flames that were ranked high on the immortal flame ranking were. It was really difficult to fuse with the immortal flames. However, Bufang thought that as long as he completed the temporary task, he would receive the qualification to fuse with the immortal flames provided by the system. It turned out that this illusory reward was used for this purpose. It seemed like the system also wanted his immortal flames to improve. However, Bufang thought about it and understood. As his cooking skills improved, The golden lotus demonic flame would be like the previous heaven and earth obsidian flame, which couldn't keep up with his level. And at this time, he needed a stronger flame. Bufang believed that the immortal flame of each Qilin chef would be at the peak level. Like Realm Lord Dit's immortal flame, it was hard to imagine. Of course, during these peaceful days, besides running the restaurant, practicing his flame control and his cutting immortal style, Bufang also went to the Mu family's residence to continue his teaching. And this time, he was going to choose his apprentice chef. He had cast the net, so it was time to retract it. And who should he choose as his apprentice chef? After a long time of testing and analysis, he had already gotten the answer. That day Bufang quietly reclined on the chair. He was leisurely rocking. Today's business had ended, and Bufang had finished practicing his knife skill. He enjoyed the rare tranquility and leisure. However, just as he was closing his eyes to take a nap, in the distance there was a figure rushing over at high speed. With a squeak, he pushed the restaurant's door open. The figure entered the restaurant and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Bufang, who was sitting on a chair, taking a nap. Mu Luer looked at Bufang, who was sleeping leisurely, and she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Owner Bu, the second-layer genius team of the Heaven Chief World's Heaven Chief team, has come to our first layer. Right now, they are holding a cooking discussion in the City Lord's mansion. Owner Bu, you should prepare to go there. Mu Luer's words made Bufang open his sleepy eyes. Why should I go? Mu Luer was bewildered. The Tong family and the Zhang family said a lot about you to the second-layer genius team of the Heaven Chief World's Heaven Chief team. They also described you as extremely arrogant. Those second-layer Heaven Chief are very angry now, and they want you to go there. They want to compete with you in cooking. Mu Luer sighed and said, Owner Bu, didn't you agree to participate in the Heaven Chief competition? Then it's necessary to go there. After all, you can understand the second-layer Heaven Chief's standard. Bufang, who was sitting on the chair, opened his mouth wide and yawned. His gaze landed on Mu Luer. Just because they want me to go, does that mean I have to go? I agreed to participate, but it doesn't mean I have to go to the competition. I don't need to understand the Heaven Chief's standard. Go back and tell them that I'm very busy now. I don't have time. After saying that, he yawned again, curled up his body on the chair, found an angle, and continued to lie down. Chapter 10:23. Not free? Mu Luer was a little speechless as she looked at Bufang, who was lying on the chair and yawning. He didn't look like he was busy at all. Does he look like he's not free? If you want to find an excuse, you should at least find a more reliable one. Mu Luer was a little speechless as she rubbed her forehead. However, looking at Bufang's posture, he really didn't want to go, and Mu Luer didn't have a good impression of those second-layer Heaven Chief. Although those Heaven Chiefs said that they were here to discuss, they looked down on them as if their eyes were on top of their heads. Only the Heaven Chief of the Tong and Zhang families nodded and bowed as they followed behind those people. Gongshu Ban, Xianyuan Xiaohui, and the others were like Bufang, so they didn't go. Mu Luer was the daughter of the City Lord, so she didn't want to go either. However, she still had to be polite. Although Mu Yang was the City Lord, he was the weakest among the 5 City Lords of the Heaven Chief realm. He was also the easiest to be banned. Because Mu Yang had a lot of requirements, he didn't have the qualifications to be a City Lord. To become a City Lord, first of all, he had to have the corresponding strength. Secondly, he had to have the corresponding cooking skills. Before Mu Yang became the City Lord, the first layer's City Lord was a Qilin chef. He was one of the 5 Qilin chefs of the Heaven Chief realm, the top chef. And now, Mu Yang's cooking skills were only at the 3rd-grade Heaven Chief. In the Heaven Chief realm, although there weren't many 3rd-grade Heaven Chief, there were still dozens of them. Especially the higher echelons of the Heaven Chief realm. The number of 3rd-grade Heaven Chief realms was even more. Mu Luer also pulled a chair, sitting beside Bufang. She copied Bufang's posture, curling up on the chair. I have to say, it's really comfortable like this. I don't need to think about anything and just watch the flowers bloom and wilt, Mu Luer muttered. It's really comfortable. After the business hours and cooking practice, I will come here to lie down for a while to relax, Bufang said. He turned his head to look at Mu Luer. He could feel her exhaustion. You don't want me to go to that conference? Bufang asked. If you don't want to go, then don't go. Those people are really annoying. Anyway, I'm going to participate in the competition. Help me beat them up, Mu Luer said with a grin. Mu Luer isn't very good-looking. Compared to you, she can be described as ugly. Perhaps this was the DNA of the Mu family. A cooking competition isn't a fight. Beating someone up is too violent. Can't you be more polite? Bufang pursed his lips. Mu Luer froze. What else? I'll help you defeat them, Bufang said. Mu Luer, I'm looking forward to the Heaven Chief competition, Bufang said. Anticipation? Why? Mu Luer furrowed her brows, looking at Bufang. Because the reward for this competition is true dragon meat. If a chef wants to improve, he must try cooking higher-grade ingredient. That way, his vision will broaden, and his cooking skills will become more exquisite. Of course, I'm also looking forward to the Heaven Tree space, Bufang said. However, Mu Luer was silent. The Heaven Tree space is the most important place in the Heaven Chief realm. Owner Bu, if you can enter, you must be careful, Mu Luer said. It's the most important place. Why should I be careful? Is there any danger? Bufang was puzzled, looking at Mu Luer. Danger? Of course. Do you know how the city lord of the first layer died? He died in the Heaven Tree space, Mu Luer said gloomily. This was obviously a secret that not many people knew. Bufang was a little surprised. The city lord of the Immortal City, an existence at the Qilin chef level, had died in the Heaven Tree space? The air suddenly became quiet. The two of them did not say anything. Mu Luer stood up from her chair. After saying goodbye to Bufang, she left the restaurant. Soon, her figure disappeared from the street. After Mu Luer left, the night gradually fell. The night in the Heaven Chief realm was not very beautiful. There were no stars in the sky and there was no moon. It was pitch black, and one could not even see their own fingers. However, the night in the Immortal City decorated the lonely night with beauty. The lights flickered and the stars shone brightly. The Heaven Chief restaurant's location was a little remote. At this place, the lights had become very dim. In the distance, a group of people slowly walked over. This group of people were all wearing neat chef robes. Under the cover of the night, their figures seemed a little vague. However, from this group of people, a terrible aura spread out. Is this the small restaurant you were talking about? It's really small and pitiful. A slightly lazy voice sounded, and a figure slowly emerged from the darkness. This was a man with long green hair. He had a sharp chin, and he was wearing a neat chef robe. His face had an arrogant expression. Your Excellency Xiao Buchuan, this is the restaurant of the chef that the city lord is optimistic about. He is considered to have the highest chance of entering the top 100 of the Heaven Chief competition. A somewhat flattering voice sounded. Then, the green-haired man slowly walked toward the Heaven Chief restaurant. There was a knife in the man's hand. It was a shining, steel-gray knife that constantly rotated in his hand. Since we're here for a discussion, we naturally have to find the strongest chef. What's there to discuss with trash like you? Xiao Buchuan grinned, playing with the knife in his hand. As the knife rotated, it seemed to have a sharp gust of wind whistling out. Tong Shui looked at Xiao Buchuan with a sullen expression. This incomparably arrogant guy in front of him was one of the members of the Heaven Chief team that the second layer had sent to the first layer for a discussion. He had to admit that his cooking skills were really strong. They had heard that he had already touched the threshold of the second-grade Heaven Chief competition. He was even stronger than Gongshu Ban. However, this person was too arrogant. He didn't put the Heaven Chief team of the first layer in his eyes at all. In other words, the members of the Heaven Chief team that had come this time were all arrogant. The others were even more arrogant than Xiao Buchuan. But he did have the capital to be arrogant. As the genius Heaven Chief of the Tong family, Tong Xue's talent was much stronger than Tong Cheng's. However, when he faced Xiao Buchuan, he felt a huge pressure. This pressure made his hand, which was holding the knife, tremble a little. It's that small restaurant. I want to see how strong the strongest young Heaven Chief of the first layer is. Xiao Buchuan's hand shook, and a spirit herb root appeared. He held it in his mouth, slowly walking toward the Heaven Chief restaurant. A group of people followed behind him, quickly crowding around him as they arrived in front of the Heaven Chief restaurant. It was already late at night. The doors of the small restaurant were tightly shut. However, from the crack in the door they could see that there were lights on inside, which meant that there were people inside. You knock on the door and call them out for me. Xiao Buchuan held the grass root in his mouth as he indifferently said. Tong Xue's brows arched. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up as he excitedly stepped forward. Family head Tong Wudi had told him that he couldn't use force to deal with this restaurant, but he didn't say that he couldn't use his cooking skills to crush it. As long as he could crush that mortal chef in cooking, he could represent the Tong family and mercilessly laugh at that mortal chef. That kind of comfortable feeling made him excited just thinking about it. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and call them out. Xiao Buchuan bit the grass root as he looked at Tong Xue, who was standing in front of the door and smiling foolishly. He furrowed his brows. Tong Xue froze for a moment, and terrifying true energy burst out from his body. He aimed a punch at the tightly shut door. Tong Xue was a 2-star true immortal realm expert. Of course, his cultivation was built up by using spirit herbs. Compared to Tong Mu's combat strength, he was much weaker. Basically, many Heaven Chiefs' cultivation was built up by using spirit herbs. If one wanted to become a high-grade Heaven Chief, one's cultivation must be able to keep up. In this punch, Tong Xue displayed his 2-star true immortal realm cultivation to its fullest. There was even a burst of vital energy in his hands. His fist landed on the restaurant's door. Tong Xue had a feeling that this punch of his could even blow up a small mountain, let alone a broken door. However, his fist landed on the door, but it didn't cause any ripples. Everyone blinked their eyes as they looked at him. Xiao Buchuan held the grass root in his mouth as he rolled his eyes. The people on the first floor were too weak. They couldn't even break open a door. Tong Xue was a little embarrassed. Then, he got so angry that he couldn't even break open a door? This broken door actually dared to make him lose face. True energy rose once more, condensing on his fist as he punched out once more. However, a muffled sound rang out, but nothing happened to the door. There's something strange. Tong Xue wasn't a fool. If 2 punches from a 2-star true immortal realm expert couldn't break open a door, it was enough to show that something was strange. Xiao Buchuan's mouth twitched. Suddenly, a faint voice rang out from within the restaurant. Today's business hours have ended. If you want to eat, please come back tomorrow, eh? Everyone on the scene was slightly stunned. He's really arrogant. Xiao Buchuan spat out the grass root that had its essence sucked clean. He bared his teeth, and his gaze fell on the restaurant with a hint of disdain. Pretending to be profound? Xiao Buchuan took a step forward, and the true qi on his body suddenly curled up, unceasingly gathering on his palm, and finally turned into an energy ball full of explosive true qi. Come out, or else I'll break the door. Xiao Buchuan indifferently said. In the first floor of the Heaven Chief world, there was actually someone who dared to act cool in front of him. However, no one responded to Xiao Buchuan. Tong Xue and the others looked at each other in dismay. Tong Xue thought for a moment, then said, "This is Xiao Buchuan, a genius from the second floor of the Heaven Chief world. He's a distinguished guest of the city lord's mansion. You can't be rude and lose the face of our first floor." As his words fell, the atmosphere became quiet. "I said that the business hours are over. If you want to eat, come back tomorrow. Are you deaf?" The faint voice once again floated out from the restaurant. Tong Shui suddenly stopped. Xiao Buchuan grinned and narrowed his eyes. The next moment, he took a step forward, and the energy ball in his hand smashed toward the restaurant's door. Its power was extremely terrifying. The void seemed to distort under the rotating energy ball. "Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Open for me." Boom! Xiao Buchuan's fist smashed down. Its speed was extremely fast, and its power was astonishing. Along with Xiao Buchuan's roar, a distant creaking sound rang out. The closed door of the restaurant suddenly opened. An explosive sound rang out. Xiao Buchuan's fist suddenly smashed into a chubby iron puppet, and the energy dissipated. "Earth Immortal Puppet?" Looking at Xiao Bai standing at the door, the group of people revealed a trace of a smile. Sure enough, that mortal chef still gave in. The face of the second floor's genius heaven chief was really big. The corner of Xiao Buchuan's mouth curled up. Wasn't it better to do this earlier? The people of the first floor were really cheap. You're smart. I heard that your cooking skills were praised by the first layer city lord, so I won't say anything more. Come out and ask me for advice. Let me see the strongest young immortal chef of the first layer. Xiao Buchuan rubbed his arm, then he played with the knife in his hand as he walked toward the restaurant. However, just as he took a step forward, the iron puppet's palm, which was like a palm fan, fell on his body. Xiao Buchuan froze. Tong Shui and the others were also stunned. "Xiao Bai, strip them for me and throw them out. Throw them far away. Recently I've seen too many naked bodies of that fool, and the others can't enter my eyes." "What?" Everyone was stunned. Xiao Buchuan furrowed his brows. Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes suddenly flashed with the brilliance of stars and lightning. "Troublemakers will be stripped as an example to others." Chapter 10:24. Strip as an example to others? Xiao Buchuan was stunned by the words that came out of Xiao Bai's mouth. Then, he suddenly burst into laughter. His laughter was full of ridicule. "A mere earth immortal puppet dares to be so arrogant," Xiao Buchuan said with a grin. The next moment, his eyes burst out with brilliance. The second layer of the Heaven Chief Realm's Heaven Chief Realm not only crushed the first layer's cooking skills, but also in terms of cultivating fighting strength, it was much stronger than the first layer's Heaven Chief Realm's immortal herbs. In Xiao Buchuan's impression, the first layer's Earth Immortal puppets were basically trash. Having a one-star true Immortal Realm Earth Immortal puppet was basically the limit. And for Xiao Buchuan, a one-star true Immortal Realm Earth Immortal puppet could be killed with a flip of his hand. Therefore, he felt that the arrogant words of this Earth Immortal puppet were ridiculous. "Strip, let's see if I, your father, will peel off your iron skin." His feet suddenly stomped on the ground. Xiao Buchuan's figure actually turned over and stood up. His legs clamped Xiao Bai's arm. "This move is called Hanging Star Hook. Fall for me." Xiao Buchuan's eyes revealed a sharp light. True energy flowed into his legs, and his legs suddenly exerted force, wanting to pull Xiao Bai's arm off. He had used this move to destroy many Earth Immortal puppets. In the second layer of the Heaven Chief Realm, the strength of the Earth Immortal puppet was much stronger than the first layer. In fact, the difference in strength between the second, third, and fourth layers of the Heaven Chief Realm was not big, and they were also the main competitors. And because the Heaven Chief Realm had the best terrain, the fifth layer's spirit energy and various resources were the best in the Heaven Chief Realm. Therefore, the fifth layer cultivated the most geniuses in the Heaven Chief Realm. For example, in the last Heaven Chief competition's top 10, 8 of them came from the Heaven Chief Realm. That was the fear of being dominated. A powerful earth immortal puppet was a rarity in the first level, but in the higher levels of the Heaven Chief realm, it was a very important component. That was because the Heaven Tree would bear fruits every month, and those fruits would open Earth Immortal Puppet. These Earth Immortal Puppets were different from the fake goods on the first floor. Those Earth Immortal Puppets could help the Heaven Chief resist the lightning punishment. Furthermore, there was also the appearance of a Celestial Immortal Puppet, which was in existence even stronger than an Earth Immortal Puppet. Xiao Buchuan was very confident that he would be able to crush a first-layer Earth Immortal Puppet. However, soon, Xiao Buchuan's eyes widened. A look of disbelief appeared in his eyes. His upside-down star hook didn't even break the arm of this Earth Immortal Puppet. It didn't even shake this iron puppet. Xiao Bai slightly tilted his head, then fiercely swung it. Xiao Buchuan's figure was thrown out like a fly. After saying that, Bufang didn't say anything else. White Yi's eyes also shone brightly. Boom! Xiao Bai's feet suddenly burst out with power. Then, he shot out like a cannonball, dashing into the crowd in just a blink of an eye. Those aristocratic families' Heaven Chief had never seen such a scene before. They were just here to watch the fun. They didn't expect that Xiao Bai would actually target them. Tong Shui looked at Xiao Bai, who had appeared in front of him in just a blink of an eye, his face bewildered. No. It's none of my business. Tong Shui's face was almost scrunched up. Then, Xiao Bai's fan-like palm kept enlarging in his eyes. Ah! Ah! A tearing sound rang out. Then, it was followed by a scream. Tong Shui felt a cool and refreshing feeling on his body. It was the feeling of a gentle breeze blowing through his private parts. His palm was numb. Tong Shui opened his eyes and saw that his whole body was naked. His face darkened. Don't hit people's faces, and don't strip people's clothes. This Earth Immortal Puppet had no moral principles. Facing Xiao Bai, Tong Shui, who had a 2-star true Immortal Realm cultivation base, could have resisted. However, he didn't have the courage to resist. Thus, he was stripped naked by Xiao Bai. Suddenly, he was flung far away. Xiao Bai always carried out Bufang's principle of throwing things far away. Hence, Tong Shui felt that he was flying high up in the sky. Under the bright lights of the Immortal City, all kinds of cool and refreshing sensations. In the next instant, with a thud, he fell into the downtown area far away. When the passers-by saw the naked Tong Shui descending from the sky, they all surrounded him. That seems to be the Tong family's genius Heaven Chief. Was he stripped naked and running around? Interesting. From the direction where Tong Shui fell, this guy can't be looking for trouble with Ownerbu, right? The mortal Heaven Chief Ownerbu is a legendary figure. Even the Tong family's head chose to retreat. Is this genius Heaven Chief's brain filled with shit? The surrounding onlookers recognized Tong Shui, and they couldn't stop muttering. Tong Shui's cheeks were streaming with tears. He was just going to be a bystander. In front of the restaurant, Xiao Bai's movements were incomparably agile. His fan-like big hand waved unceasingly. Every time he waved, the sound of clothes tearing could be heard. In the next instant, a naked figure flew across the sky, drawing an arc in the sky and smashed into the crowd. Xiao Bai's strength was very great, so he was thrown very far away. The surrounding onlookers looked at the naked figures falling from the sky, and they all looked like they were watching a good show. Because they realized that those people who were stripped were actually the famous Heaven Chief of the Immortal City. Some came from aristocratic families, and some joined aristocratic families. Xiao Buchuan's eyes widened. Looking at Xiao Bai, who was stripping the Heaven Chief's clothes, his whole body tightened and he felt a chill. There's actually such a perverted, Earth Immortal Puppet in this world. This was the first time he saw this kind of Earth Immortal Puppet that stripped people's clothes. After Xiao Bai stripped those Heaven Chief's clothes, his mechanical eyes flickered, and his gaze fell on Xiao Buchuan in the distance. Xiao Buchuan waved the knife in his hand, and there was a dignified look in his eyes. This earth immortal puppet is a little extraordinary. It's comparable to the second layer earth immortal puppet. It seems like I have to show my real skills, Xiao Buchuan said seriously. In the next moment, the knife in his hand turned and fell into his hand. True energy burst out and his figure sped out like lightning. It was aimed at several joints of Xiao Bai. The most effective way to deal with an earth immortal puppet was to cut off its joint. In this way, the earth immortal puppet would lose its basic combat ability. A sonorous sound echoed. Sparks flew everywhere. Xiao Buchuan's figure turned in the air, and then he quickly landed. His face was full of disbelief. Because at this moment, Xiao Bai's hand unexpectedly had an iron-like metal stick. That metal stick was full of flashing lightning. Xiao Buchuan's eyebrows twitched, and his heart suddenly had a bad premonition. Boom! The metal wings on Xiao Bai's back spread out. Those huge metal wings made Xiao Buchuan's face a little dark. In just a flash, Xiao Bai appeared in front of him. Xiao Buchuan sucked in a breath of cold air. The steel-gray knife kept sliding. It collided with the metal stick. Xiao Bai's movement was not very fast, but Xiao Buchuan had a hard time resisting. Stop playing. Hurry up and finish it. It's time to sleep. A faint voice floated out of the restaurant. Xiao Buchuan was surprised. His face suddenly showed a constipated expression. Play? Was this earth immortal puppet playing with him? Who was it looking down on? Boom! All of a sudden, Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flashed. Then, the war god's stick suddenly stabbed out. Xiao Buchuan's face changed. He took a step back and the knife suddenly stabbed out. A ripping sound rang out. It seemed like it wanted to pierce the sky. Sizzle! Sizzle! Thousands of lightning arcs burst out from the war god's stick. Xiao Buchuan looked at the stick that was rapidly approaching him. He was completely dumbfounded. This earth immortal puppet could actually discharge electricity. Sizzle! Sizzle! Xiao Buchuan was struck by the lightning. In the next moment, his whole body was entangled in the lightning, and his bones could be faintly seen. His body trembled unceasingly. He put away the war god's stick. Xiao Buchuan's eyes rolled back. His green afro was foaming at the mouth as he softly fell to the ground. Xiao Bai slowly walked over, and a ripping sound rang out. His clothes were torn apart, revealing his charred body. 1, 2, 3, go! Xiao Bai fiercely swung, and Xiao Buchuan's body fell in the air, falling in the distance. The onlookers were in an uproar once again. When Tong Shui saw this scene, he hurried forward. Tong Wudi had asked him to entertain the Heaven Chief from the second layer, but he had brought people to be stripped. If this was known, his buttocks would be smashed by Tong Wudi. Your Excellency Xiao Buchuan. Tong Shui came to Xiao Buchuan's side, reached out and grabbed his arm. Sizzle! Sizzle! Lightning arcs shot out, and Tong Shui's body trembled from the electric shock. Tong family's mansion in the main hall. At this moment, the Tong family was entertaining distinguished guests. All kinds of immortal ingredients, immortal fruits, and immortal dishes were also arranged on the table. Tong Wudi's face was flushed, and he was talking to a middle-aged man next to him. That middle-aged man didn't refuse the immortal ingredients and immortal fruits on the table, but he rarely touched the immortal dishes. Come, 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 Captain Shui. This is my Tong family's special wine. Come and have a taste. Tong Wudi received a green wine jar from a servant and personally poured a cup for the middle-aged man. The fragrance of the wine lingered, and the wine was like a sparkling emerald. Not bad wine. The middle-aged man's eyes slightly lit up. He picked up the wine cup, drank it in one gulp, and clicked his tongue a few times. His eyes narrowed, and his face was full of enjoyment. The wine's fragrance is mellow, the taste is fresh, and the wine's strength is thick and thin. It can be considered a good wine, the middle-aged man said with a smile. Tong Wudi's face suddenly stiffened. This was the Tong family's best wine, and he, Tong Wudi, was usually reluctant to drink it. For the sake of the plan, he, Tong Wudi, had also spent a lot of money. However, thinking of the benefits that the Tong family could obtain after the plan succeeded, a strong smile appeared on Tong Wudi's face once again. He kept pouring wine. Xiao Buchuan was sent back. His whole body was flickering with lightning, and his hair was exploding. All the Heaven Chief Realms second layers Heaven Chief Realms experts heard the news and quickly rushed over. Seeing Xiao Buchuan's appearance, they couldn't help but laugh. That exploding green hair really looks like a green hat, a beautiful woman said with a smile, covering her red lips. Xiao Buchuan was actually so miserable. In the end, who did it? A man frowned. That's right, Xiao Buchuan's strength is not bad, and his cooking skills are also very strong, but how could he end up like this? The number of Heaven Chief Realms second layers Heaven Chief Realms experts who came to discuss this matter was not many, only 6 or 7 of them. After a round of chattering and analyzing, Tong Shui, wearing a brocade robe, walked in with a cautious face. The second layer's Heaven Chief discovered him and looked at him. Tong Shui didn't dare to hide anything, so he told everything to the Heaven Chief Realm. Arrogant! Savage! There's actually such an overconfident person in the first layer. After these people heard it, their anger surged, and they all burst out shouting. They looked down on the first layer's Heaven Chief Realm, but they didn't expect that their companion, Xiao Buchuan, would actually be humiliated by a lower layer's Heaven Chief. Moreover, he was stripped naked in public. This chef is courting death, a young man coldly said. Everyone, since we've come to the first layer, we naturally have to work together. Since someone dares to humiliate our compatriots, we can't just sit back and watch. Tomorrow we'll go to that restaurant together and teach that chef a lesson. Tong Shui looked at this group of people filled with righteous indignation, and his heart was a little happy. That mortal chef was finished this time. Everyone, if you go to that restaurant tomorrow, what will you do if they ignore you? You can only use cooking skills to suppress that restaurant, and you can't use force to suppress it. Tong Shui said. Why can't we use force to suppress it? A woman frowned and asked. Why? Tong Shui smiled. He raised his finger and pointed above. Because that chef has a dog above him. Everyone was stunned, thinking that Tong Shui was playing with them. However, after Tong Shui explained, they understood that Bufang's background was not ordinary. If everyone trusts me, I can tell you the whereabouts of that little chef. As far as I know, that little chef will go to the Mu family every day. At that time, we only need to go to the Mu family to ask for him. Tong Shui rubbed his hands, narrowing his eyes. At that time, everyone can use your cooking skills to get back for Xiao Buchuan. Chapter 1025. Mu Residence Immortal School. This was the place where the Mu residents trained the next Heaven Chief. As the saying went, when the heavens were about to bestow a great responsibility on a man, one must start from a child. The Mu residents had thoroughly implemented this concept. However, it was different from before. The previously noisy Mu clans becoming immortal school was now orderly and orderly. As soon as they approached, they could smell the fragrance in the air, as well as the noise of dishes being stir-fried. That was the sound of the iron wok colliding with the stove, as well as the sound of the spatula colliding with the iron wok. The sound was pleasing to the ear, as if a moving piece of music was being played. Bufang wore a striped red and white vermilion robe, slowly walking over from the distance of the Mu residence. Today, he was going to choose the chef apprentice he wanted. Thus, Bufang seemed a little solemn today. Actually, he already had someone in mind. The chef apprentice that Bufang wanted naturally had to be talented. With talent, they could walk further on the culinary path. Although hard work could make up for one's lack of talent, without talent, no matter how diligent one was, it would still be difficult to reach a high level. If one was diligent and talented, it would be even better. Of course, Bufang did not have high expectations for these little fellows in the immortal school. Stepping into the pavilion of the immortal school, the little fellows who were cooking in front of their respective stoves immediately stopped what they were doing, greeting Bufang. Obviously, during these days, these little fellows had been trained well by Bufang. After greeting him, the little fellows continued their work. Swish, swish, swish. A kitchen knife spun in Mu Shou's hand, as if it was made of thin paper, incomparably light. The kitchen knife swung out, falling like a meteor, cutting the ingredients on the stove. This was the meteor knife skill that Bufang had taught them, and its power was not bad. Although it was only the first level of the meteor knife skill, it was enough for these little fellows to study for a long time. Mu Shou was the little boy who had been punished by Bufang to swing his knife 1,000 times. Today, his knife skill was already top-notch among his peers. And in the entire Immortal Ascension School, there was no one who could compare to Mu Shou's knife skills. Only Mu Yu, the little boy who was as beautiful as a girl, was also punished. The other was Mu Sisi, the youngest child in the entire Immortalization School. She had a ponytail and was dressed in a one-piece dress. This time, Bufang's choice was none other than this little girl, Mu Sisi. Mu Sisi's culinary talent was amazing, and Bufang only discovered it later. This little girl's speed of learning was astonishing, and her comprehension was also especially shocking. Most importantly, Sisi's tongue was far superior to that of ordinary people. His sensitivity to smell had reached a very exaggerated level. That was a type of immortal tongue, a unique advantage. Even Bufang did not have such an advantage. Among the Heaven Chief, it was very rare for a Heaven Chief to have an immortal tongue, because it was a 1 in a million chance. Bufang knew that the Mu family's people might not have discovered this characteristic of Sisi. Therefore, Bufang wanted to take advantage of the fact that Sisi had not been discovered to abduct her. Of course, Bufang was not in a hurry. After all, City Lord Mu Yang had promised him that he could choose anyone he wanted to be his apprentice. Mu Sisi's little face was chubby, full of baby fat. At this moment, she was concentrating on cooking the dish in her hands. Her little face was red, which was a sign that she was releasing her mental energy. One had to admit that the advantage of the Heaven Chief realm was that these little babies had a very high starting point. Although Mu Sisi was young, her cultivation had already reached the divine physique echelon. And this was because her body was still growing, so she was not allowed to break through to the divine soul echelon too early. With this kind of cultivation, the mental energy she possessed was enough to cook dishes. Bufang clasped his hands, expressionlessly watching Sisi cook. Sisi seemed to have noticed Bufang. It was unknown whether it was because she was nervous or excited, but her mental energy was actually a little chaotic at this moment. Sisi's face instantly revealed a nervous and bewildered expression. Looking at Sisi's state, Bufang's spirit slightly rolled. Then, a wave of mental energy was released, helping Sisi stabilize her mental energy. The bewildered expression on Sisi's face instantly disappeared. Raising her head, she looked at Bufang, grinning foolishly. "Thank you, old Bu. Please call me Teacher Bu or Owner Bu." Bufang calmly looked at Mu Sisi. "Okay, old Bu," Mu Sisi said. After saying that, she ignored Bufang, reaching out her hand to open the wok. Steaming hot air surged up from the wok, swirling around the roof. It was like a mushroom cloud. A fragrant aroma wafted out from the wok. Mu Sisi's white and tender hands were covered with a thick cloth glove as she took out the dish from the wok. It was a porcelain jar, and the lid of the jar was a Buddha with a smooth belly sitting diagonally. "Buddha jumps over the wall soup. Done," Mu Sisi said with a childish voice. Then, she looked at Bufang with a complacent face. In the distance, Mu Shou and the others revealed a sense of defeat. Sisi had actually learned the most difficult Buddha jumps over the wall soup that Teacher Bu had taught her. She was really a baby, infuriating to death. This was the so-called other people's baby. Although Mu Shou and Mu Yu's knife skills were not weaker than Mu Cici's, when it came to cooking, they were far behind. Buddha jumps over the wall soup? Bu Fang was slightly surprised as he looked at Cici. This girl's talent was really too astonishing. Cici excitedly opened the lid of the Buddha jumps over the wall soup. The Buddha's head was grabbed by Cici, and she lifted it up. Old Bu, quickly try it. I added 36 ingredients into this Buddha jumps over the wall soup. Although they are not high-grade ingredients, it is still very difficult to combine them, Cici said. Then, she blinked her big eyes, staring at Bu Fang. Bu Fang nodded his head. He didn't say anything else. He scooped up a bowl of golden brown soup, scooped up a spoonful, and blew at the steam. Then, with a sizzling sound, he swallowed it. As it entered his mouth, the taste of the dish continuously spread. The taste of all kinds of constantly changing ingredients spread on the tip of his tongue and mouth. Although it was not as rich and unforgettable as the Buddha jumps over the wall soup cooked by Bu Fang, this kind of constantly changing taste was really a rare taste experience, as expected of a little girl with an immortal tongue. Her control of taste made Bu Fang sigh in admiration. Not bad. Bu Fang drank a few more mouthfuls, praising the dish. Although the Buddha jumps over the wall soup had lost some of its basic taste due to the combination of too many ingredients, it was still a good dish. After receiving Bu Fang's praise, Cici was so excited that she started to dance. Old Bu, Cici worked so hard. Is there a reward? I want a spicy strip as a reward, Cici said. In the distance, Mu Luer also stepped onto the steps of the Immortal Ascension School. When she saw Cici chatting with Bu Fang, a smile appeared on her face. Bu Fang didn't reject Cici's request. His hand flashed, and a spicy strip appeared. He handed it to Cici. After Cici received it, she happily ate it. Perhaps it was because her immortal tongue was sensitive, but Cici really liked the spicy strip, which seemed to have 1,000 different tastes. Cici, do you want to go to Teacher Bu's restaurant to take a look? Bu Fang rubbed Cici's head as he asked. Old Bu's restaurant? Can Cici go? Cici raised her head as she ate the spicy strip. Mu Luer also walked over. When she heard Bu Fang's words, she was a little surprised. Owner Bu, could it be that the person you want to choose? Mu Luer seemed to have guessed something, and she looked at Bu Fang with a bewildered expression. Cici is still so young, but she is very talented, Bu Fang said seriously. Mu Luer didn't say anything else. Her father had already agreed to Bu Fang's request. This was also one of the conditions for Bu Fang to participate in the Heaven Chief competition. In the past, the Mu family had already failed Bu Fang once, and Mu Luer didn't want it to happen a second time. Thus, she didn't refuse. However, she was still a little suspicious. After all, Cici was still a little girl. After chatting for a while, Bu Fang's teaching continued. After a long time, the teaching ended. Everyone dispersed. Mu Luer walked over with Cici, who was carrying a small backpack. Let's go. Teacher Bu will bring you to take a look at the restaurant. Bu Fang rubbed Cici's head as he said with a smile. Cici's eyes instantly lit up, and she cheered excitedly. Teacher Bu, can we go? In the distance, Mu Shou and Mu Yu blinked their eyes, their faces filled with desire. Bu Fang indifferently looked at the two of them, but he didn't refuse. Let's go together. Mu Yu and Mu Shou looked at each other, seeing the excitement in each other's eyes. The two of them followed, moving to the left and right of Cici, walking together. Mu Luer brought them out of the Mu family's residence. A group of people walked on the long street. All of a sudden, Mu Luer furrowed her brows. She felt a little puzzled. Tap, tap, tap. Bu Fang's footsteps also gradually stopped, and his hands, which were placed in the sleeves of the vermilion robe, slowly fell down. Who's there? Bu Fang calmly asked. The originally noisy street became silent at this moment, and the pedestrians who came and went disappeared. Without a doubt, Bu Fang's group had stepped into the array. In the distance, a figure appeared. Cici, Mu Shou, and the others had never seen such a scene before. They felt as though those people were demons that had walked out of hell. They were so scared that their small bodies trembled unceasingly. Mu Luer hugged the children, frowning. Bufang's eyes were indifferent as he looked into the distance. There, a group of people walked out. Among them, there was a familiar face. It was Tong Shui, who had been stripped naked by Xiao Bai and thrown far away. Owner Bu? TSK, TSK, TSK. I finally meet you. Tong Shui narrowed his eyes, looking at Bufang with a sneer on his face. Beside him, there was a group of Heaven Chief wearing chef robes. The aura of these Heaven Chief was incomparably terrifying. Each of them was much stronger than the Heaven Chief that Bufang had seen before. These are the Heaven Chief from the second layer. Yesterday, your Earth Immortal puppet stripped your clothes. Your Excellency Xiao Buchuan was electrocuted to the point that he couldn't get out of bed. These Heaven Chief from the second layer are here to take revenge on Owner Bu, Tong Shui said. Take revenge? Bufang asked expressionlessly. However, before Tong Shui could say anything, the Heaven Chief behind Tong Shui was the first to open his mouth. You are the young Heaven Chief that the City Lord said is the strongest in the first layer? Xiao Buchuan couldn't find you, but we found you. We don't beat people or kill people. We just want you to have a cooking competition with us. We can have a good exchange and discuss cooking skills. If you don't obey, you will have to bear the consequences. We have already arranged an array here. Your Earth Immortal puppet can't sense it. The immortal chefs all spoke with sneers on their faces. How dare you? This is the first layer of the Heaven Chief world. It's under the jurisdiction of City Lord Mu Yang. Mu Luer hugged the children, glaring at them. Tong Shui laughed heartily. City Lord Mu Yang. Soon. You won't be. After Tong Shui finished speaking, he seemed to realize that he had said too much and frowned. Mu Luer's eyes shrank. What did he mean? The exchange and discussion these days are too boring. The so-called Heaven Chief of the first layer is simply trash. I hope you won't disappoint us. A young man said indifferently, looking at Bufang. Bufang stood still. So, the reason why you guys set up this formation and waited for me was to compete with me in cooking? We want to crush you. If we didn't do that, how could you accept it? That fool Xiao Buchuan is his fate, a woman said with a smile. Bufang understood. His face was expressionless as he swept his eyes over everyone. He let out a deep breath. Then, he turned to look at the three children in Mu Luer's arms. Mu Shou, Mu Yu, Teacher Bu will teach you one last lesson today. Watch carefully. Bufang said. A moment later, he raised his head, looking at the second layer's Heaven Chief. Competing in cooking? Have you heard of a chef's challenge? Chef's challenge. Everyone was bewildered. Bufang looked at them and twitched the corner of his mouth, revealing his teeth. A chef's challenge. It's a cooking competition. The loser has to hand over his kitchen knife to the winner. Since we want to compete in cooking, ordinary discussions are meaningless. Let's have a chef's challenge. I alone will fight against the 5 of you. You guys come together. Chapter 10:26. Chef's Challenge. Arrogant. 1 against the 5 of us? What a joke. Bufang's words were like a huge stone thrown into a calm pond, instantly causing an uproar. The Heaven Chief from the second layer exchanged looks. They had never thought that the first layer's Heaven Chief wouldn't run away when facing them. Instead, he didn't show the slightest bit of fear. He even brought up the concept of a chef's challenge. You're courting death. Don't you want to be a chef anymore? The eyes of the second layer's Heaven Chief were filled with anger. Bufang's words and behavior were really challenging their endurance limit. Tong Shui was also dumbfounded. He didn't think that Bufang would be so domineering. In a chef's challenge, the loser had to give his kitchen knife to the winner. It was a little cruel. Every immortal chef cherished their kitchen knife very much. After all, it was their arm. After losing, he actually wanted to give his arm to someone else. You're courting death. A second layer's heaven chief said angrily. A stream of genuine chi surged out of his body. Since it's like this, I'll teach you how to be a person. I'll let you understand the real gap between us. The second layer's heaven chief was burning with anger. They had always looked down on the first layer's heaven chief, but today these heaven chief from the first layer actually dared to look down on them. It had always been them who looked down on the trash from the first layer. How could they tolerate this trash looking down on them? That trash even arrogantly said that he wanted to be better than the 5 of them. Did he really think that they were paper tigers that could be casually kneaded? Buzz! The scene in front of everyone instantly flashed. In the next instant Tong Shui, Mu Luer, and the others were chased far away, watching the scene in front of them. Bu Fang was surrounded by the 5 heaven chief. Boom! 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 The 5 heaven chief took out their respective stove. Their stoves were overflowing with colorful lights, emitting a dazzling radiance. Buzz! The cries of the sabers rang out incessantly. These heaven chief took out their kitchen knives one after another. Immortal energy swirled around the kitchen knife. The kitchen knives used by these immortal chefs were actually immortal tools. Moreover, judging from the immortal chi lingering around them, they were all mid-grade immortal tools. In the distance, a trace of worry appeared in Mu Luer's eyes. Mu Luer naturally recognized these 5 people. They were the second floor's heaven chief, who had gone to the city lord's mansion a few days ago. There was no doubt that their cooking skills were excellent. It should be known that these chefs had the confidence to enter the top 300 in the Immortal Chef Tournament. Mu Sisi was nestled in Mu Luer's embrace. Although she was young, she was not stupid. She could feel that Bu Fang seemed to be engaged in a cooking battle. Old Bu! Kill them all! Mu Sisi clenched her fists and shouted in a childish voice. Mu Luer didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This little girl. The 5 people surrounding Bu Fang looked at Bu Fang disdainfully. Chef's challenge. Just you? Bu Fang gently exhaled. Then, his mind flickered. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. In that case, let's start the chef's challenge, Bu Fang said. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone suddenly felt something, and they couldn't help but raise their heads to look at the sky. However, they found that there seemed to be an invisible pressure in the sky. The faces of the 5 people from the second floor instantly changed. This feeling was a little strange. Bu Fang was quite familiar with it. He looked at the sky. Once the chef's challenge was completed, it should be the will of the great path descending, urging the completion of this chef's challenge. However, 1 against 5. The pressure was not small. His mind flickered, and the black turtle constellation walk also appeared. In the distance, the 5 people had already taken out ingredients from their spatial bags. Portions of ingredients shrouded in immortal energy were placed on the stove. Knife light emerged, covering the sky. Kitchen knives spun in the air. Cooking ingredients fluttered. In an instant, the 5 of them displayed their culinary skills. A terrifying pressure and aura burst out from their bodies. Tong Shui's eyes shrank, looking at this chef's challenge in shock. The pressure that pervaded the air caused all the muscles in his body to slightly tremble. So strong. Worthy of being the Heaven Chief Realm's second floor's Heaven Chief Realm. Tong Shui sucked in a breath of cold air. Boom! Boom! The aura emanating from the bodies of the 5 of them formed illusory shadows above their heads. It was a figure, as if they were indifferent to the sky. It was the aura that belonged to their cooking skills. It's starting. I hope you won't let me down. Bu Fang gently exhaled. A moment later, his hand moved, and the dragon bone kitchen knife instantly appeared in his hand. It spun rapidly in his palm. The whistling knife light instantly filled the whole place. With a dragon roar, the dragon bone kitchen knife blossomed with golden light, and ingredients flew out from the system's spatial bag. This chef's challenge didn't have any restrictions. It was to see who could suppress the other's dishes. In fact, the chef's challenge of the Heaven Chief realm. It was already very direct and violent, using the power to crush and explode with lightning. Tap, tap. In the second floor's Heaven Chief, there was a person holding a long kitchen knife. The speed of the knife was so fast that it dazzled people's eyes. At a glance, it seemed as if there were 3 arms cutting the ingredients at the same time. As for his ingredients, they were all chopped into small pieces. That kind of neat and tidy cut, every grain was the same size. Each of them had their own specialty, and their knife skills were also different from each other. Mu Sisi, Mu Shou, and the others, who were in Mu Luer's arms, widened their eyes as they watched this chef's challenge. This chef's challenge made their small bodies extremely excited. They were so excited. Teacher Bu will definitely win. Teacher Bu's cooking skills are the best I've ever seen. It's impossible for him to lose. Old Bu beat them up. Mu Shou, Mu Yu, and Mu Sisi, the 3 children, all cheered for Bu Fang. Of course, they wouldn't miss out on every cooking detail. No matter if it was Bu Fang's or those chefs, they were all cooking skills that were worth learning. This was a high-level Heaven Chief's challenge. Boom, boom, boom. Their knife skills were displayed. Next, they displayed their flames one after another. Without a doubt, these Heaven Chief's flames were all immortal flames. If they wanted to become high-level Heaven Chief, they must have their own immortal flames. As soon as these immortal flames appeared, the temperature of the entire space became extremely hot. These chefs looked at Bu Fang with disdain. They guided the immortal flames into their stoves. That level's trash didn't even have an immortal tool stove. How could they compete with them? Before they even started, they had already lost. A stove was very important to a chef, and Bu Fang really didn't need a stove. The meteor knife skill was displayed. It was as if a pitch-black sky had appeared, and meteors were falling from the sky. This is the perfect meteor knife skill, Bu Fang said calmly. His voice reached the ears of Mu Sisi, Mu Shou, and the others. The children couldn't help but show a look of surprise. The second layer of the Heaven Chief realm's Heaven Chief realm was instantly enraged. While they were having a chef's challenge, he dared to teach others. This fellow was really boundlessly arrogant. It seemed that they had to completely crush him and take away all his cooking tools to vent their hatred. Boom! Flames shot up to the sky. These immortal flames turned into tangible objects, surrounding their stove. Sizzle! 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 Hot air surged up to the sky. The aroma filled the air in an instant. Between each other, they actually condensed into spirit beast. Above the sky, dark clouds quickly shrouded over. Outside the formation, at this moment, the noisy street was in an uproar. They looked at the dark clouds gathering in the sky, all of them extremely shocked. In the Gongshu mansion, Gongshu Ban opened his eyes. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. This feeling. It's owner Bu. Then, Gongshu Ban stood up, put on his long robe, and flew out. On the way, he met Xianyuan Xiaohui. The two exchanged looks, understanding each other. At this moment, many of the Heaven Chief in the Immortal City were attracted by this imposing aura, dashing toward a direction on the street. The heads of the aristocratic families also seemed to have the same feeling. Buzz, due to the pressure of heaven and earth, the formation gradually lost its effect. Instantly, the scene in the field was revealed. The surrounding pedestrians were in an uproar. They retreated to a distance, watching the cooking competition in shock. Seeing the 5 Heaven Chiefs surrounding Owner Bu, many people who knew Bu Fang exclaimed in surprise. Is that the 5 Heaven Chief fighting against Owner Bu? Awesome. 1 against 5. Domineering. Those 5 Heaven Chief are so strong. The surrounding onlookers instantly chattered. For a moment, this battle became the focus of everyone's attention. Someone found that the 5 Heaven Chief were the Heaven Chief from the second layer of the Heaven Chief realm. Instantly, it set off a frenzy which made the audience so excited. In people's impression, the Heaven Chief of the second layer of the Heaven Chief realm had always crushed the Heaven Chief of the first layer. Today, such an exaggerated and unbelievable scene happened. The 5 Heaven Chief of the second layer were fighting against the Heaven Chief of the first layer at the same time. The audience consciously gave the place to Bufang and the others. Gongshu Ban, Xianyuan Shihui, and the other Heaven Chief arrived. They watched the chef's challenge from a distance, their faces solemn. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, suddenly, the pressure rose and black clouds came. The sound of thunder rumbled unceasingly. The battle in the arena had also gradually entered a white-hot stage. In the distance, in a towering pavilion, City Lord Mu Yang clasped his hands, watching the chef's challenge from a distance. His eyes narrowed, and there seemed to be light flashing in them. Good. Let's see if this little chef can shine in this time's Heaven Chief competition. Let's see what happens next. The Tong family, the Zhang family, and the leader of the second layer's Heaven Chief team were also standing on a high place, watching. Leader Chui, what do you think about this chef's challenge? Tong Wudi asked Leader Chui with a smile. What opinion do I need? Your first layer's Heaven Chief is all trash. This is a slaughter without any suspense. Leader Chui clasped his hands, smiling faintly. Tong Wudi's face stiffened. Moreover, that chef from the first layer chose to fight 1 against 5. Isn't he seeking his own death? Once he loses, that chef's culinary path will be broken. Steward Chui, that chef is the strongest young immortal chef in the first layer that the city lord mentioned, Chui Lufeng said. Tong Wudi said, he's a kid who has created countless miracles. Miracles? Impossible. In front of true power, he can only be crushed. Steward Chui said disdainfully. Also, Head Tong, I don't know if the conditions we mentioned yesterday are true. You should know that what we're doing this time is very disgraceful. Don't worry, Steward Chui. I won't forget what I promised you. Very good. Let's wait and see. It's starting to attract the lightning punishment. Mu Lure raised her head to look at the sky, her face solemn. So, this is the lightning punishment. Mu Cici's eyes widened as she looked at the rolling thunderclouds. She couldn't help but feel envious. One day, she would be able to cook a dish that could attract the lightning punishment. Rumble. Bufang's palm touched the black turtle constellation walk. The black turtle constellation walk instantly spun. He glanced at the sky, his face indifferent. The 5 people around him also looked at the sky. The next moment, they all looked at Bufang with cold smiles on their faces. Boom! The 5 of them released their powerful mental force at the same time. Their sneers echoed. First layer's trash, field despair. Boom! 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 One by one, the wok lids were lifted. Instantly, the rich aroma of dishes wafted out from the wok. In the sky, the lightning that had been suppressed for a long time began to gather. Rumbling sounds rang out. Bufang gently exhaled. He flicked his finger on the black turtle constellation wok, and the lid fell back. At this moment, the thunderclouds in the middle, rumbling sounds rang out as they smashed down. 6 thunderclouds swept down from the sky, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, roaring furiously. In the sky, they began to kill each other. At the same time, the 5 thunder dragons on the edge rushed toward the lightning punishment summoned by Bufang. This scene caused everyone to burst into an uproar. No one had thought that such a situation would happen. Is this because of the chef's challenge? Bufang raised his head, looking at the void. There, light flashed. The 6 thunder dragons fought unceasingly. The chef's challenge attracts the will of the great path. The thunder dragons that the dish attracts will be the key to determine the winner. Now, let's see whose lightning punishment is stronger. Chapter 10:27. Strange. Why are the lightning punishments fighting against each other? There's such a thing? The lightning punishments will fight against each other? It's too shocking. It's a thunder dragon battle. The audience looked up at the 6 thunder dragons fighting against each other in the sky. They swooped down from the dark clouds, tearing and biting each other. The audience could only hear the roars of thunder, and the explosions continued to spread in all directions. This cool scene caused many people to roar in excitement. The 5 Heaven Chief on the second layer were also a little confused. A moment later, their eyes focused. They were not fools. With one look, they understood what was going on. Is this the so-called Chef's Challenge? One of the Heaven Chiefs said with a grin. Using the number of lightning punishments as the standard to judge the dish, the 6 lightning punishments would fight against each other. The side that won would be the winner of the Chef's Challenge. But we have 5 lightning punishments. 1 against 5. Where did he get his courage from? The second layer's Heaven Chief was incomparably confident. The aroma of the dishes in their hands lingered. However, at this moment, the focus of the audience was not the dishes, but the thunder dragons above their heads. Boom! Boom! The battle of the 6 lightning punishments seemed to have ignited the focus of the audience, causing their blood to boil. The 5 thunder dragons, which were formed by lightning, danced around the thunder dragon in the middle. Electric sparks danced around it. Those thunder dragons were vivid, as though they were real creatures. One could even see the clear scales on them. Those scales looked so obvious. With a ripping sound, the thunder dragon drilled out, rushing toward Bufang's thunder dragon. Boom! A loud explosion rang out, and electric sparks instantly swept across the entire area. It was so dazzling that it seemed to light up the entire sky. At this moment, it was almost night, and the sky had begun to turn pitch black. However, under the illumination of the thunder dragon, it was incomparably bright. The audience below let out excited roars as they watched the battle in the sky. Sister Lure, do you think Old Boo's lightning punishment can win? Mu Sisi blinked her big eyes, looking at Mu Lure as she asked. Mu Lure's face froze. For a moment, she did not know how to answer. Could he win? She didn't have any plan in mind. Perhaps he could win. After all, his opponent was Bufang, a mortal chef from the lower realm who kept creating miracles. But, right now, he was facing 5 Heaven Chief from the second level. These Heaven Chiefs' cooking skills weren't weaker than Gongshu Ban's. Unless Bufang's dish could trigger 3 lightning punishments, it would be very difficult for him to win. In the distance, Gongshu Ban had the same thought. Of the 3 lightning punishment lightning dragons, each one stronger than the previous one. If the 3rd lightning punishment were to fall, these lightning punishments would definitely not be able to withstand it, and would be torn to shreds. At that time, the winner should be Bufang. From the lightning punishment, Gongshu Ban and the others understood. The final result of this cooking competition was decided by the lightning punishment in the sky. Bufang clasped his hands behind his back, his vermilion robe fluttering in the strong wind. Up in the sky, it was as bright as day, and there was a constant commotion. The rumbling sounds were deafening and resounded continuously. It was a brutal battle that shook people's hearts. 5 thunder dragons dashed toward the thunder dragon that Bufang had summoned. They opened their mouths and released lightning bolts, biting on the thunder dragon's neck and tearing it apart. Lightning bolts swept and collided. Everybody couldn't help but clench their fists. They suddenly felt that they weren't watching a cooking competition, but a blood-boiling battle. All of a sudden, everybody screamed in fear. In the sky, Bufang's thunder dragon was bitten and smashed into pieces. Its head was bitten off, and its tail was crushed. The audience was in an uproar. They couldn't believe what they had just seen. Some people clutched their heads, crying out in disbelief. Bufang's thunder dragon was bitten into pieces, which meant that Bufang's thunder dragon was defeated. Bufang was defeated. That mortal chef, who kept creating miracles, was defeated. Mu Sisi was a little anxious. She grabbed the hem of Mu Lure's clothes, pointing at the broken thunder dragon in the sky, her face anxious. Ha ha ha! Indeed, the trash of the first layer is trash. Do you deserve a chef's challenge? When the second layer immortal chef saw Bufang's thunder dragon vanish, he exhaled as though a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Previously, they were afraid that they would fail miserably. However, it seemed that everything was settled now. The thunder dragon was bitten into pieces, which meant that they had won this chef's challenge. In their hands, the aroma of the dishes kept gathering, turning into strands of immortal energy. The immortal energy wound around the dishes, making them look dreamy and illusory. Do you feel despair? Do you regret your chef's challenge now? Bah! Scared me. I thought I was going to lose. Lose? If I lose to a trash of the first layer, I will eat that stove. Ha! The second layer's heaven chief was so happy. He couldn't stop laughing. In the distance, City Lord Mu Yang furrowed his brows, a trace of disappointment in his eyes. Did he really lose? Tong family chief, you see. Trash is trash. In the end, it's impossible for him to defeat the second layer's genius heaven chief. Captain Chui laughed. He clasped his hands, turned around, and was about to leave. He didn't want to see that trashy chef's fate anymore. Oh, seems like you guys are very confident. Bufang clasped his hands, his face indifferent. He looked at the shattered thunder dragon, not a trace of care on his face. Bufang's words made everybody freeze. The 5 second layer's heaven chief's laughter stopped. Mu Luer's eyes brightened, staring at the sky. Gongshu Ban and Xianyuan Shehui seemed to think of something, gazing at the void without blinking. They were waiting for something. You're just a trash of the first layer. What are you so proud of? The thunder dragon was bitten into pieces. You still don't want to admit defeat? This chef's challenge. You've lost. The heavenly path has acknowledged it. Don't tell me you still want to deny it? The second layer's heaven chief mocked and ridiculed. They were exercising the winner's authority. Hey, the guy who said he would eat the stove if he lost. Does he still keep his word? However, Bufang was indifferent to their mockery and ridicule. The corners of his mouth twitched, looking at the crowd in the distance. Do you think you can turn the tables? If I lose, I'll eat the stove. It was a young immortal chef. He looked rather rough, and he said angrily. Good. I'm looking forward to that scene. Bufang nodded. Then, he raised his head, looking at the sky. Your thunder dragon is hurt badly. Eh? The 5 heaven chief were bewildered. They lifted their heads. A moment later, their eyes shrank. They found that after their thunder dragons had bitten Bufang's thunder dragon, their lightning bolts had dimmed a lot, and there were many holes in the lightning bolt. Even though Bufang's thunder dragon had been torn apart, it was still badly injured. At this moment, if another thunder dragon attacked, the 5 of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Hey, who said I only have 1 lightning punishment? Bufang said. As soon as he said that, in the pitch-black layer of clouds, another thunderclap rang out. Light emerged. A thunder dragon flashing with lightning bolts drilled out of the dark clouds, roaring as it charged toward the 5 thunder dragons. Double lightning punishment? The 5 second layer heaven chief sucked in a breath of cold air, their pupils shrinking. The surrounding onlookers also let out a roar at this moment. The sudden reversal made them so excited that they couldn't restrain their excitement. Beat them. Old Boo, you can do it. Mu Sisi was so excited that she danced with joy. Gongshu Ban and the others exhaled in relief. Indeed, it was Owner Boo's style. Far from them, City Lord Mu Yang grinned as a look of admiration appeared in his eyes. Captain Chui, who had turned around and walked far away, was shaken when he heard the thunderclap. Then, he turned around, gazing at the void in the distance. How could it be? Double lightning punishment? The trash of the first layer can trigger the double lightning punishment. Captain Chui's eyes shrank, asking disbelievingly. The Tong family's head also took a deep breath. He couldn't help but admit that Bufang's cooking talent was really amazing. However, even so, it couldn't stop him from doing what he was about to do. The reappearance of the Thunder Dragon once again ignited the climax of the audience. The Thunder Dragon attacked, tearing it apart. The second layer Heaven Chief's Thunder Dragon was torn apart like a piece of paper. There were 2 lightning punishments, and each one was stronger than the one before it. Thus, the result was obvious. The Thunder Dragon collapsed. The black clouds that shrouded their heads also slowly scattered. Crack! Crack! The dishes on the porcelain plates in their hands began to tremble. The porcelain plates shattered, scattering on the ground. Slowly, the immortal aura faded away, sizzle, sizzle, rumble. However, the lightning punishment that had torn the 5 Thunder Dragons didn't stop. Roaring, it stormed toward Bufang. At this moment, the air had a burning smell. The Thunder Dragon followed Bufang's head, grumblingly pounding. Boom! Everyone's eyes shone with a bright light. The light was dazzling. Ah! Without the earth immortal puppet. This fellow will be killed by the lightning punishment. A second layer Heaven Chief seemed to think of something, speaking excitedly. They were defeated. Although it was hard to accept this fact, it was the truth. They couldn't avoid it. However, if the Thunder Dragon killed Bufang, this fact would become a thing of the past. However, the others looked at the laughing man as if they were looking at an idiot. In the field, a loud and clear bird cry rang out. Scarlet flaming feathers fluttered in the sky. Everybody was fascinated by the scene in the field. The incandescent lightning dispersed. Instantly, people took in a breath of cold air. The red and white striped vermilion robe on Bufang's body had turned scarlet. The scarlet light shrouded his body. Behind him, a pair of scarlet flaming wings unfolded, with flaming feathers fluttering in the air. Bufang raised one hand. In his palm was the sizzling Thunder Dragon. The scene was so shocking that people were dumbstruck. Even the 5-second layer Heaven Chief shivered. Catching the Thunder Dragon with his bare hands? Did he want to ascend to the heavens? The Taotai arm exerted force, and the Thunder Dragon was smashed by Bufang. Of course, he had to rely on the powerful defense of the vermilion robe to do that. With the invincibility of the vermilion robe, Bufang dared to try to catch the Lord Go's exquisite claw with his bare hands. The Thunder Dragon vanished, and the dark clouds in the sky also dispersed. There was a faint fragrance lingering in the air. Bufang took out the dish from the black turtle constellation wok. The aroma slowly diffused. A Buddha with a gentle smile on his face suddenly appeared. Wow! It's the Buddha jumps over the wall soup. The moment Cici saw Bufang take out the dish, her eyes brightened. She cheered. Bufang waved at Cici, who was not far from him. Cici excitedly dashed over. Have you learned the cooking method of the Buddha jumps over the wall soup? Bufang gently asked Cici. From today onwards, you are my apprentice chef. I hope your cooking skills can reach a higher level. Cici's eyes were shining as she stared at the Buddha jumps over the wall soup in Bufang's hands. In the distance, Mu Shou and Mu Yu's faces were solemn. Was this the last lesson owner Bu was going to teach them? Mu residence Mu Yang, who was standing on a tall building, stiffened. Looking at Mu Cici, who was standing beside Bufang, his eyes widened. Cici? In the distance, with a cracking sound, the Tong family's railing was crushed by Captain Chui. Captain Chui quietly snorted, flicked his sleeves, and left. The wind dispersed. Bufang handed the Buddha jumps over the wall soup to Mu Cici. Then, he lazily raised his eyes, looking at the 5 people in the distance. Who said that the loser would have to eat the stove? This kind of operation, I really want to see. Chapter 10:28. Lost? The audience was in an uproar. At this moment, the onlookers looked at Bufang with fiery eyes. Owner Bu had won. This mortal heaven chief from the lower realm had once again created a miracle. His opponents were 5 heaven chief. Facing 5 heaven chief at the same time and defeating them with one strike, it was unbelievable. I know them. They're the Heaven Chief discussion team from the second layer. What? Owner Boo is competing with the Heaven Chief from the second layer? Owner Boo defeated the Heaven Chief from the second layer. Someone recognized Bufang's opponent. In fact, it was easy to recognize them because they were the Heaven Chief from the second layer. When they descended to the first layer, they had attracted many people's attention. However, that was not the focus of people's attention now. Bufang defeated the Heaven Chief from the second layer? How was that possible? It should be noted that no matter from which aspect, the Heaven Chief from the first layer was always at a disadvantage when facing the Heaven Chief from the second layer. The limited resources made the Heaven Chief from the first layer weaker than the Heaven Chief from the second layer. Of course, over the years there had been many monstrous Heaven Chief from the first layer. Those Heaven Chief could stand out in the Heaven Chief competition and enter the top 200. Such existences were rare. Even if there were, they would have become the famous third-grade Heaven Chief. Was Owner Boo a monstrous genius? Many people were deep in thought and absent-minded. He's just a immortal chef from the world of mortals. His growth is really too fast. Eating the stove? The face of the Heaven Chief from the second layer, who had boasted before, turned pale. He had never thought that Bufang could turn the tables. The Heaven Chief from the first layer could cook a dish that could trigger the second lightning punishment and defeat their lightning punishment. He had crushed them to death at their proudest moment. Let's put the matter of eating the stove aside for now. Let's finish the bet for the chef's challenge first, Bufang said lightly. He put his hands in the pockets of the vermilion robe and looked into the distance calmly. Cici was holding the Buddha jumps over the wall soup cooked by Bufang. The Buddha jumps over the wall soup was glowing, and the Buddha looked as though he was coming to life. There was a smile on his face. Bufang chose to cook the Buddha jumps over the wall soup because he wanted to teach these little guys. However, it was just an ordinary Buddha jumps over the wall soup. It was not as difficult as the heaven-grade Buddha jumps over the wall soup. As Bufang's culinary skills improved, so did the grade of the ingredients. The level of the Buddha jumps over the wall soup kept rising. For example, the mortal-grade Buddha jumps over the wall soup he had just cooked had almost reached the level of a third-grade immortal dish. A third-grade immortal dish could only be cooked by the best of the first-grade immortal chef. Bet? What bet? In the distance, the faces of the 5 Heaven Chief from the second layer changed, and they all shouted. Their faces were sullen. This time, they had failed miserably, which made their hearts really uncomfortable. They thought that they could help Xiao Buchuan regain his face. In the end, both of them had lost their faces. This guy was really monstrous. Everyone, let's go. That kind of bet is simply a joke. At this time, Tong Shui opened his mouth, breaking the awkwardness of the second layer Heaven Chief. The importance of a kitchen knife to a chef is self-evident. This so-called bet actually wants to take away the kitchen knife of the loser. How can there be such a vicious bet in this world? Tong Shui said. Yes. This doesn't conform to the norm. We will not hand over the kitchen knife. With Tong Shui breaking the deadlock, the others seemed to have grasped the last life-saving dish. Everyone's face revealed a forced smile. The surrounding people looked at them with disdain. Willing to bet but not willing to admit defeat. This was really shameful, Looks like you want to deny it. However, it's not that easy to deny a chef's challenge. Bufang's face was still as calm as ever. He looked at them indifferently. Cici, Mu Shou, and Mu Yu ran to the side, opening the lid of the Buddha jumps over the wall soup. As soon as the lid was opened, beams of light shot out from the porcelain jar, as though they were rushing into the sky. The faces of the 3 children revealed a look of surprise. Smelling the fragrance in the air, their faces were filled with intoxication. Immortal energy, golden light, rich fragrance, the combination of the 3 made people's bodies and minds intoxicated in this dish. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, there were no dark clouds shrouding the pitch-black night sky. However, it still let out a thunderous roar. A huge wave of pressure spread out from it. The faces of the 5-second layer Heaven Chief instantly changed. "This is," Bufang raised his head to look at the sky, the corners of his mouth twitching. "It's starting." As a chef's challenge recognized by the great path of the Heaven Chief realm, you can't deny it just because you want to. Sizzle! Sizzle! A loud explosion rang out. Suddenly, a blue lightning arc came crashing down from the sky. Its speed was extremely fast, and in just a blink of an eye, it hit the place where one of the Heaven Chief was standing. That Heaven Chief's reaction was fast. In just a blink of an eye, he moved to the side, creating a deep, charred pit on the ground. At this moment, the 5-second layer Heaven Chief also understood. The so-called chef's challenge was recognized by the Great Path. Unless they could resist the Great Path's will, they would definitely lose their kitchen knives. At this moment, their hearts were bleeding. Those were their precious kitchen knives. Those kitchen knives, they were all immortal tools, and some were even middle-grade immortal tools. They were not willing to hand them over to this first-layer guy just like that. They looked at Bufang, and Bufang nodded at them. His mind flickered. Instantly, a magic array appeared under Bufang's feet. The magic array twinkled and rotated, and a crystal knife cabinet slowly emerged from it. When the crowd saw that dazzling crystal knife cabinet, they instantly burst into an uproar. That was because there were so many kitchen knives in that cabinet. All kinds of kitchen knives were dazzling you. Looking at that knife cabinet, no matter how much they killed, they knew that they had fallen into Bufang's trap. Looking at the kitchen knives in the cabinet, they knew that this fellow must have participated in many chef's challenges. Buzz, no matter if their hearts were bleeding or not, to avoid the Great Path's lightning strike, they chose to let go. The knife cabinet emitted a suction force. It sucked away their immortal tools and kitchen knives. All of them floated toward Bufang. Bufang raised his hand, and those colorful kitchen knives instantly floated around him. He flicked his finger. It bounced on the kitchen knives. A buzzing sound rang out unceasingly. "They're all good kitchen knives," Bufang said in admiration. "How could they not be good? Those were all mid-grade immortal tools." The eyes of the second layer's Heaven Chief revealed a look of resentment. They were unwilling. If they lost those kitchen knives, their cooking skills would drop a lot, of course. Bufang didn't care about their murderous gazes. His mind flickered. Those kitchen knives were placed into the cabinet. "Humph! You're just a junior. You dare to scheme against us, the second layer's Heaven Chief. Do you think you're qualified to take away these immortal tools?" Just as Bufang was putting the kitchen knives back into the cabinet, a loud sound rang out. The void suddenly let out a snort. The sound seemed to explode the void. Everybody could hear the buzzing sound in their ears. It was so ear-piercing. The faces of Mu Luer, Gongshu Ban, and the others instantly changed. This aura, it was the leader of the second layer's Heaven Chief. Boom! The void suddenly exploded. A moment later, a big hand made of energy slapped toward Bufang's knife cabinet. It wanted to smash the cabinet in one move. This sudden change made everybody go into an uproar. Bufang's face stiffened. In the distance, the 5-second layer's Heaven Chief looked happy. "It's Leader Chui. We can keep our immortal tools now." "Kill him. That trash set a trap for us. Leader Chui, you have to stand up for us." The 5 Heaven Chiefs seemed to have found a life-saving straw, and they all shouted. "Rumble! Rumble!" That palm slapped toward Bufang. A terrifying pressure spread out in an instant. This pressure contained a terrifying suppressive force. This was a palm that had fused with the will of the Great Path. Thinking about it, the person who made this move must have a powerful cultivation base. However, to Bufang, the so-called pressure was just a joke. In Bufang's perception, this person's pressure was much weaker than Realm Lord Dit, who liked to be naked. They were not on the same level. Shameless! Mu Luer's face was filled with anger. As the palm slapped down, the void shattered unceasingly. Suddenly, in the direction of the city lord's mansion, at the same time, a palm of energy slapped over. Rumbling sounds resounded unceasingly, colliding with Leader Chui's palm. Instantly there was an explosion. Leader Chui, why do you need to attack a junior? This is a competition between juniors. Winning and losing is normal. If you're not satisfied, you can just win it back in the Heaven Chief competition. A voice filled with a faint smile resounded. City Lord Mu Yang's voice resounded. Mu Luer and the others instantly revealed a joyful look. Bu Fang looked in the direction of the city lord's mansion. The black energy twirling around his hand also dispersed. The mental force in his mind also slowly calmed down. Heaven Chief Restaurant Lord Go's exquisite dog paw stiffened. Then, he casually scratched his head. Forget it. I'll just lie down for a while. Mu Yang had made a move. This was something that no one had expected, not even Leader Chui. However, Mu Yang was the city lord. Although he had the weakest cultivation base, he still had the status of a city lord. Leader Chui couldn't force him too much. Hence, he snorted and chose to stop. Still not coming back? A bunch of shameful things, Leader Chui coldly snorted. On the Tong family's tall building, Leader Chui's face was gloomy as he looked in the direction of the city lord's mansion. His eyes slightly narrowed. City Lord Mu Yang. Not bad. With a cold snort, Leader Chui flicked his sleeves and left. Tong Wudi grabbed the railing of the tall building, gently exhaling as he looked into the distance. The corners of his mouth rose, revealing a faint smile. In the end, the Heaven Chief, who was eating the stove, did not eat. After all, the will of the Great Path did not pay attention to his words. Hence, it was not a problem for him to go back on his words. The 5 Heaven Chiefs of the second layer of the Heaven Chief's mansion left dejectedly. They were so aggrieved that their hearts were bleeding. At first, they thought that it would be a show of strength, but in the end, they were defeated by the guys from that layer. Their immortal tool, the kitchen knife, was also taken away. This had dealt a big blow to their strength. In the upcoming Heaven Chief competition, if they lost their telepathic kitchen knife, their performance would definitely plummet. Bu Fang brought Cici, Mu Shou, and the others back to the restaurant. He took Cici to visit the restaurant's kitchen, confirming Cici's identity. Cici was extremely curious about everything in the kitchen. These cooking tools had subverted her knowledge and completely changed her view of the world. Curiosity, fun, and other emotions made the little girl so excited that she couldn't sleep well after returning to the Mu family. From now on, she would personally go to Bu Fang's restaurant to learn how to cook. The Heaven Chief's team from the second layer of the Heaven Chief's mansion left. 3 days later, the Heaven Chief competition would begin. They needed to return to the second layer to prepare for the competition. Not long after the Heaven Chief's team left, a piece of news that shocked the entire first layer of the Heaven Chief's mansion spread out. City Lord Mu Yang of the first layer of the Heaven Chief's mansion has fallen. As soon as this news came out, it was like an earthquake. The entire first layer of the Heaven Chief's mansion was in an uproar. City Lord Mu Yang fell when he went to the wilderness to hunt the savage beast. The head of the Tong family, Tong Wudi, has announced that he will be the acting city lord of the Immortal City, in charge of the Immortal City's affairs. That day, the Mu family in the Immortal City was on fire. The Mu family, who had rebelled against Tong Wudi and become the acting city lord, was uprooted and destroyed overnight by the Tong family and many other families in the Immortal City. It was late at night. Outside the closed door of the Heaven Chief restaurant, 3 figures wrapped in black robes dragged their exhausted bodies to the front of the gate. They knocked hard on the door. Chapter 10:29. Squeak. A sound rang out. It wasn't Bu Fang who opened the door. Instead, it was Xiao Bai whose mechanical eyes sparkled. Troublemakers will be stripped as an example to others, Xiao Bai said mechanically, his chubby body blocking the door, looking down from above. However, after it finished speaking, Xiao Bai stood at his spot, not moving. He raised his fan-like palm, scratching his round head. Xiao Bai lowered his head, looking at a pair of big, watery eyes. At this moment, his big eyes were filled with tears like a flood. It seemed he was frightened by Xiao Bai's words. At the moment when a lightning arc flashed in Xiao Bai's eyes, Cece's mouth trembled, bursting into tears. Xiao Bai looked at Cece with a dumbfounded face. Cece cried so hard that her tears and snot flowed together. Xiao Bai recognized Cece. As Bufang's new apprentice, Xiao Bai was naturally familiar with her. Perhaps it was because he had swallowed a lot of lightning. Xiao Bai had evolved to this stage, and he had developed a little intelligence. However, even with his intelligence, he couldn't understand the situation at this moment. Next to Cece there were two figures. They lifted their hoods, revealing their faces. These were two exhausted faces. They seemed to have heard the crying. Bufang slowly walked down from the upper floor. Bufang, who was wearing pajamas, had his hair spread out. The front of his shirt was slightly open, revealing some of his fair skin. He looked a little lazy. Hearing Cece's crying, Bufang walked over. "What's going on?" Bufang walked to the door, yawning as he asked suspiciously. Xiao Bai's fan-like palm scratched his head. Then, he turned his body, revealing Cece, who was sitting on the ground and crying. Cece?" Bufang frowned and glanced at Cece. Cece stopped crying as if she had met an acquaintance. But she had already cried like a hua cat, her face full of tears. She sobbed and looked at Bufang. Bufang walked in front of Cece and conjured a chili strip out of thin air, handing it to Cece. "Eat a spicy strip to calm down. Don't cry." Bufang comforted him a little stiffly. Holding the spicy strip in her hands, Cece stopped crying. Xiao Bai's mechanical eyes flickered as he walked to Cece's side. He reached out his fan-like hand and scooped up Cece, then placed her on his head. Cece was originally a child, so she felt that this was fun. While holding the spicy strip, she smiled through her tears and played happily with Xiao Bai. At this time, Bufang looked at the other two. Mu Luer and Mu Shou both revealed exhausted expressions. "I'm sorry, Owner Bu. It's already so late, but I still came to find you." Bufang clasped his hands behind his back as he walked into the restaurant. "Come in first." Mu Luer and Mu Shou looked at each other, then stepped into the restaurant. With a bang, the restaurant's door slammed shut. Swish! The sound of tea being poured rang out. The lights flickered. Dense steam rose up, and under the reflection of the lights, it seemed to bloom with 5 colors. Bufang poured the hot tea and handed it to Mu Luer and Mu Shou. "Drink it. I picked these tea leaves myself," Bufang said. Mu Luer held the teacup with both hands, covering it with both hands. The teacup emitted heat, causing Mu Luer's ice-cold heart to gradually warm up. A little bit of warmth was emitted from the teacup. The rich fragrance of the tea calmed her restless heart. This was the charm of the Heaven Chief restaurant. It always calmed people's hearts. She took a sip of the tea. The bitter taste of the tea flowed down her throat and into her stomach. After the bitterness, there was a refreshing sweetness. "Tell me, what happened?" Bufang looked at Mu Luer, asking suspiciously. Mu Luer shook her head bitterly. Everything that had happened today had left her in a state of shock. "My father is dead, the Mu family is gone. The city lord has changed," Mu Luer said. As she said these words, Mu Luer's voice trembled. Bufang was slightly stunned. Today, the Tong family, the Zhang family, and the other family heads cooperated with a 6-star beast emperor and that Captain Chui, who should have left, to beat my father to death. Mu Luer said, her body slightly trembling. She did not think that Tong Wudi would have such big gut. Her father was the Immortal City's city lord. He had been personally confirmed by the Realm Lord. She had never thought that these people would dare to make a move. Were they not afraid of the Realm Lord blaming them? However, she knew that this was all planned by Tong Wudi. With the involvement of the 6-star Beast Emperor, Tong Wudi and the others could say that her father had died together with the Beast Emperor to kill it. Bufang looked at the sad Mu Luer, not knowing what to say. My condolences. The dead cannot come back to life. Bufang thought for a moment, then said. He did not know how to comfort people, so he could only say this. I know. I came here today to ask Owner Bu to take care of Cece. Mu Luer drank a mouthful of hot tea, her mood calming down a lot. Bufang looked at Xiao Bai, who was happily playing with Cece, and nodded. As his apprentice chef, Cece, of course, he had to take care of her. Sure. The Mu residence is gone. I will leave Cece to Owner Bu. I want to take revenge. Mu Luer said. Sister Luer, I will go with you. Mu Shou said calmly. No, you stay here with Owner Bu and protect Cece. You two are the future hope of the Mu residence. As long as you two become powerful Heaven Chief, the Mu residence will have a chance to rise again, Mu Luer said. No, Sister Luer, I want to go with everyone to the 2nd floor. Mu Shou suddenly choked with sobs, tears welling up in his eyes. You can't go. I don't know if I can survive if I go to the 2nd floor. I don't know if there will be any changes in the Mu residence's stronghold on the 2nd floor. I don't dare to gamble, so I have to leave hope for the Mu family. Mu Luer said. After a long time, Mu Luer left, leaving only Mu Shou and Mu Cece. Bufang sighed. Looking at Mu Luer's departing figure, his mood became a little complicated. The river flows east for 30 years, and the river flows west for 30 years. You two can do it. I believe in you. Bufang rubbed Mu Shou's head and said. Mu Shou and Mu Cece settled in the store. Mu Cece became an apprentice chef, while Mu Shou replaced the Black Dragon King's unreliable waiter identity and became the new waiter of the Heaven Chief restaurant. The next day, the Tong family brought a large group of people to the Heaven Chief team, wanting to capture Mu Cece and Mu Shou. However, the relationship between Xiao Bai and Mu Cece was better than Bufang had expected. Xiao Bai, who was protective of his children, didn't even say anything about stripping the troublemakers as an example to others and directly started to beat them up. The Tong family's people were beaten black and blue, and their clothes were stripped off. One by one, they were thrown into the downtown area. Only then did the Tong family not dare to come to the store again. It was as if the Mu family had evaporated from the 1st floor of the Heaven Chief world. Other than Mu Cece and Mu Shou, who stayed in the store, everyone else had left. The entire Mu family had disappeared in one night. Bufang had been to the Mu residence. However, that place had already turned into ruins. It had been burned by immortal flames, and there was still smoke rising. Sighing, Bufang returned to the Heaven Chief restaurant. And the Heaven Chief competition was finally about to begin. Right now, the city lord of the 1st floor of the Heaven Chief world was Tong Wudi, or rather, the acting city lord. After all, he hadn't received the approval of the realm lord. However, according to the procedure, it was only a matter of time. In the city lord's mansion, Tong Wudi sat on the high seat. He narrowed his eyes. Outside the city lord's mansion, in the square, the heads of the Heaven Chief teams were moving. Almost all the Heaven Chief world's 1st floor's Heaven Chief competition had gathered here. Today was the day of the Heaven Chief world's Youth Heaven Chief competition. And these Heaven Chief were all participants of the competition. Gongshu Ban, Gongshu Yun, and Xianyuan Shehui were among these Heaven Chief teams, waiting for the teleportation array to open. The Heaven Chief Youth Competition was a grand event of the entire Heaven Chief world. Naturally, it couldn't be held in the 1st floor of the Heaven Chief world. From the 2nd floor to the 5th floor there were different competitions. The 2nd floor was where the 1st round of the Heaven Chief competition would be held, the preliminary round. All the Heaven Chief competitions participants would gather in the 2nd floor of the Heaven Chief world. In the city lord's mansion, Tong Wudi slowly walked out with his hands clasped behind his back. Today, Tong Wudi's aura was even stronger. As the city lord, he naturally had the aura of a city lord. His eyes swept across the audience. Today is the day that everyone will participate in the Heaven Chief competition. You will represent the first floor of the Heaven Chief world. I hope that everyone can get a good ranking. Tong Wudi didn't say much. From the previous competitions, the first floor of the Heaven Chief world was always at the bottom. After all, the resources were too little. His mobilization was just a routine. But at least, it was a good opportunity for everyone to see the world. Of course, since the first floor was so big, there were many Heaven Chief geniuses. Gongshu Ban, Gongshu Yun, the two siblings, Xianyuan Xiaohui, the rising star, Tong Shui of the Tong family, and other Heaven Chief geniuses all had a high chance of entering the top 300 in the Heaven Chief competition. Gongshu Ban had a high chance of entering the top 200. As the city lord, Tong Wudi would naturally give more encouragement to these geniuses. In the distance, an uproar resounded. Tong Wudi's eyes narrowed. He looked from a distance. From there, a thin figure slowly walked over. He wore a red and white vermilion robe, and his hair was tied with a velvet rope. He looked very lazy. Bufang, Tong Wudi muttered faintly. Gongshu Ban's eyes brightened. Many Heaven Chief gazed at Bufang with bright eyes. This mortal Heaven Chief from the lower realm had brought them so many miracles. They didn't know how far this mortal chef could go in this Heaven Chief competition. As of now, Bufang's name was like thunder piercing the ears of the first layer. The immortal chefs couldn't help but make way for him. Behind Bufang there were two figures. One was Xiao Bai's chubby figure, who was holding the hand of a petite little girl. Tong Wudi's eyes fell on the little girl's eyes. Instantly, a radiance burst out from his eyes. The remnants of the Mu family? Tong Wudi exhaled. His eyes gradually became sharp as he stared at Bufang. However, Bufang just looked at him indifferently, without a trace of fear. Unauthorized people aren't allowed to enter the formation, Tong Wudi said casually. One is my Earth immortal puppet, and the other is my apprentice chef. They're not unauthorized people, Bufang said seriously. Apprentice chefs were allowed to join the Heaven Chief competition. They could learn cooking skills and see the world. Apprentice chef? Tong Wudi gazed at Bufang, his face cold. After a while, the corners of his mouth rose, revealing a faint smile. All right, if that's the case, it's up to you. I hope Owner Bu's trip will be smooth. He can bring hope to the first layer of the Heaven Chief realm, Tong Wudi said. His smile was a little cold, and his eyes were a little strange. Bufang nodded. He didn't have a good impression of Tong Wudi. Tong Wudi grinned, looking at Bufang coldly. He was already a city lord. As long as the realm lord gave the order, he would have the chance to join the other city lords to expel the black dog from Bufang's restaurant. At that time, without the black dog's protection, he could do whatever he wanted to Bufang. Previously, the 5 city lords of the immortal cities could join forces to expel the black dog from the Heaven Chief realm. Now they could do it too. That was why Tong Wudi looked at Bufang coldly. The conflict between Bufang and the Tong family meant that Tong Wudi would not let Bufang go. Next, we'll open the teleportation formation. I hope you can get a good ranking in the Heaven Chief competition. Bring honor to the first layer of the Heaven Chief realm. Tong Wudi said loudly on the high platform. The Heaven Chief's blood was boiling. They all shouted. A moment later, Tong Wudi's hand bloomed with 7-colored light. He pressed it on a stone platform in front of the high platform. Buzz, a loud noise echoed. The huge teleportation formation shrouded the crowd of Heaven Chief. 7-colored light burst out. A 7-colored beam of light suddenly shot up into the sky and charged straight into the vault of heaven. The immortal chefs standing in the formation cried out in alarm. Then, they found that their bodies began to rise slowly. Their speed became faster and faster. In just a blink of an eye, they followed the 7-colored beam of light and rushed into the sky. Heaven Chief Restaurant Lord Dog looked at the beam of light that soared into the sky and yawned. Heaven Chief Competition. TSK. I really hope that Bufang boy can enter the space of the Heaven Tree. Then, Lord Go can meet his old friend. Lord Go snorted. Then, he stuck out his tongue and licked his lips, as if he was recalling something. Chapter 10:30. The seven-colored light beam shot up into the sky. In an instant it filled the void. Swish! Bufang stood in the teleportation formation, looking out of the seven-colored light beam. He saw the constantly changing scenery around him. Those were the leaves of the so-called Heaven Tree. The Heaven Tree was huge, and its leaves were of different sizes. Some were young shoots, and some were old leaves. These trees also bore fruits that were surrounded by immortal energy. Owner Boo, is this the first time you've seen this? It was unknown when Gongshu Ban and the others had come to Bufang's side. They had a good relationship with Bufang. Are these the immortal fruits on the Heaven Tree? Bufang asked. That's right. The Heaven Tree is the existence that supports the entire Heaven Chief realm. The immortal fruits can bear all kinds of immortal materials, immortal tools, and even immortal flames. Gongshu Ban said, looking at the fruits with immortal energy twirling around them. They can bear immortal flames? Bufang was a little surprised. Weren't trees afraid of fire? Wouldn't they be burned by immortal flames? Of course. The Heaven Tree has existed for tens of thousands of years. Father used to tell me. The Heaven Tree is actually the manifestation of the Great Path's will of the Heaven Chief realm, Gongshu Ban said, the corner of his mouth twitching. The manifestation of the Great Path's will. Bufang was bewildered. Then, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Realm Lord Dit had always said that the Lord Go had bitten the Great Path. Bufang still wondered how the Great Path, an illusory thing, could be bitten. Could it be that the Lord Go had eaten the Heaven Tree? Or was it the origin of the Heaven Tree? That was interesting. It's a pity that we don't have enough resources on the first level. The immortal ingredients produced by the Heaven Tree are of the lowest grade, so it's very difficult for us to nurture a powerful Heaven Chief. However, the quality of the immortal fruits in the second, third, and fourth levels are about the same. Although there are differences, the differences are still acceptable. However, the fifth level is located at the top of the Heaven Tree. It's the most essential part of the Heaven Tree, Gongshu Ban said. The Heaven Chief nurtured by that level are all very powerful. The rainbow light continued to soar into the sky. Suddenly, he rushed out of the ever-changing group of leaves and arrived at a new layer. Walala! Some leaves were falling in the air. The speed of the teleportation array also became slower and slower. Finally, it came to a stop. We're here, Gongshu Ban said. A group of people walked out of the teleportation array one after another. The air was filled with a fragrant aroma. Bufang followed the crowd and walked out. He stood in place and looked up at the sky. He immediately saw the dense leaves in the sky. Those leaves rustled in the sky. As they swayed, there seemed to be an endless sound. Is this the second level of Heaven Chief World? Bufang narrowed his eyes. His gaze landed on the leaves. Among them, there were fruits that were blooming with brilliance and surrounded by immortal energy. See, this is the difference between the first and second levels. Gongshu Ban said, looking at those immortal fruits with envy. For the first level, it's really unfair, Bufang said. Gongshu Ban smiled and walked forward. The group of people immediately walked out of the teleportation array. Outside, the noise resounded incessantly. The Heaven Chief of the first level gathered in front of an open space. In the distance was the majestic gate of the immortal city. The gate of the second level of Heaven Chief World was much more majestic than the first level. After all, in the second level of Heaven Chief World, the Heaven Chief obtained more resources. However, the beasts also obtained a lot of resources, and their strength would also increase. Facing these beasts, the immortal city also had to pay a price. In the distance, a group of guards wearing armor stood solemnly. Their faces were solemn, emotionlessly looking at the Heaven Chief of the first level. In front of those guards were experts wearing chef robes. Friends from the first level of Heaven Chief, I'm Xiao Buke from the Xiao family in Immortal City. I'm in charge of managing the order of the Heaven Chief of the first level in the second level. The leader was a gentle young man with green hair. His voice was gentle and magnetic. Everyone, remember that the Heaven Chief of the Heaven Chief world has gathered in the second level to participate in the preliminaries of the Youth Heaven Chief competition. So, remember, don't cause trouble. Otherwise, if you get killed, I won't be responsible. Xiao Buke smiled and said. However, his words made the smiles on the faces of the Heaven Chief of the first level vanish. After all, the friends from the first level are a little weak. Uproar. The Heaven Chief of the first level was in an uproar. Their faces were filled with righteous indignation. However, Xiao Buke just smiled warmly. His warm smile was filled with intense disdain. To the Heaven Chief of the second level, the Heaven Chief of the first level were just trash. A bunch of cannon fodder for the Heaven Chief competition. After talking for a while, they entered the Immortal City. Today, as they walked around the Immortal City, they could see the Heaven Chief in chef robes everywhere. Not long after, they arrived at the residence of the Heaven Chief of the first level. Outside, Gongshu Ban forced a smile. The Heaven Chief of the second level didn't put them in their eyes at all. If he wasn't wrong, among the 5 layers of the Heaven Chief world, only the Heaven Chief of the first level was arranged to live in the outer area. The other Heaven Chief also thought of that, so they all expressed their indignation. However, they had no choice. Xiao Buke didn't care about the people who were protesting. After giving each of them a jade talisman, he left. What's this jade talisman? Bufang asked suspiciously. This is our ID card. Use your mental force to activate it. You can see the competition information and other information, said Gongshu Ban. Bufang was a little surprised. Then, he guided a wisp of mental force from his spirit sea, pouring it into the jade talisman. That jade talisman flashed with radiance. Contestant number 18927, Bufang. Origin: Heaven Chief World's first level. Heaven Chief level, Immortal Chef. Bufang saw his own information. There was also a lot of information about the preliminary competition. Among them, Bufang also saw the other information that Gongshu Ban had mentioned. Talent list. Bufang was skeptical. Gongshu Ban saw Bufang's puzzled face, and he couldn't help but smile. Owner Bu, this talent list is the preliminary ranking of the Heaven Chief competition. It's based on all the young geniuses in the Heaven Chief world. You can see many monstrous geniuses in the list, said Gongshu Ban. The talent list has a total of 100 people. It's a very authoritative ranking. It's based on cultivation base, immortal flame, immortal tool, expert cooking skills, and other aspects. Gongshu Ban said, what you see now is the final ranking of the Immortal Chef Tournament. Interesting. Bufang looked at the ranking, the corners of his mouth twitching. Gongshu Ban didn't seem to understand Bufang's strange expression. With a move of his mind sank into the list and looked at the rankings. Then, his face became extremely strange. He looked at Bufang as if he was looking at a monster. Owner Bu, when did you get on the talent list? You're even ranked 100. Gongshu Ban said. That's right, the 100 on the talent list, Bufang. He came from the first layer of the Heaven Chief world. At this moment, all the Heaven Chief world's chefs who had received their jade talismans were in an uproar when they saw this strange name on the talent list. Since when could a chef from the first layer of the Heaven Chief world get on the talent list? Gongshu Ban rubbed the space between his brows. Apparently, he didn't expect it either. From a distance, Xianyuan Xiaohui and Gongshu Yun also walked over, looking at Bufang with a strange expression. Owner Bu, you quietly got on the talent list? Gong Shu Yun said with a strange face. I'm afraid your future won't be so good. Why do you say that? Bu Fong asked skeptically. Wasn't it good to get on the talent list? How awesome! Although Bu Fong had always been a low-key person, he wasn't used to this kind of high profile. 100. TSK, this position is really awkward, Gong Shu Ban said. He glanced at Bu Fong, then continued, the last rank is a very conspicuous position. Apparently, many people want this position. The fifth layer, the fourth layer, the third layer, the second layer. Basically, they won't allow a heaven chief from the first layer to occupy this precious position. Thus, in the following days, I'm afraid Owner Bu will encounter all kinds of challenges. Challenges? Bu Fong was skeptical. Let's put it this way. Gong Shu Yun directly interrupted Gong Shu Ban, looking at Bu Fong. I'm sure someone wants to mess with you, making you the target of everyone. What? Who wants to mess with me? Bu Fong was bewildered. It was the first time he came to the second layer of the Heaven Chief world. Who would be so bored to mess with a low-key chef like him? I don't know who wants to mess with you, but I'm sure they don't have good intentions. Getting on the talent list can increase your fame. Many people want to have this fame, said Gong Shu Yun. You tell me, if a Heaven Chief from the first layer holds this position that doesn't match his strength, what will happen? At this moment, Bu Fong finally understood. There would be countless people who coveted this position. Would they come and challenge him? They wanted to make him restless in this preliminary round, and even make him a laughingstock. Just a small matter. Don't worry about it. However, Bu Fong just waved his hand, faintly smirking as if he didn't care. Gong Shu Ban and the others looked at Bu Fong begrudgingly. Bu Fong still didn't understand the stakes. Challenging me. They will soon understand what a stupid decision this is, Bu Fong said, rubbing Cece's head, who was standing next to him. Gong Shu Ban and the others couldn't do anything but return to their rooms. At the same time, the entire Heaven Chief world was in an uproar. Everyone on the talent list had seen it. The 99th place wasn't out of their expectation, but what was the 100th place? Where did the Heaven Chief from the first layer come from? What qualifications did he have to occupy the 100th place? The Heaven Chief of the first layer also had a chance to enter the talent list? The Heaven Chief of the first layer, whose best result was around 150, could also enter the talent list? Who was the one who ranked this year's genius ranking? Was this a joke? Xiao Mansion Xiao Buchuan looked at his big brother Xiao Buke, who had just returned from a distance. Thank you, big brother. Xiao Buchuan looked at Xiao Buke. Xiao Buke still had a gentle smile on his face. Buchuan, you want to completely destroy that Heaven Chief of the first layer. What kind of grudge do you have against him? Do you have to make him hate you? Xiao Buke said. Just a trash of the first layer. You want to make his mind collapse. Occupying a position that doesn't match his strength, I'm afraid that chef's mind is already broken and incomparably restless, said Xiao Buke. I want him to be restless. Then, under the challenge of the Heaven Chief, he will be trampled by everyone. His mind will collapse, and he will be incomparably desperate. Xiao Buchuan grinned, his face cold. Every day, he will be laughed at by others. He will become the laughingstock of all the Heaven Chief. TSK. Really ruthless. Do you think it's easy for him to participate in the Heaven Chief competition? Xiao Buke said. Big brother, don't underestimate that chef. He can fight 1 against 5 and still win, said Xiao Buchuan. Oh, are they the 5 fellows who went to the first floor with you to discuss? Just the 5 of them. Your big brother can fight 1 against 5 with only one hand. The corners of Xiao Buke's mouth twitched, looking very disdainful. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing that guy become the laughingstock of everyone. Only then can I relieve the pain of being stripped. Xiao Buchuan's eyes were cold. Xiao Buke was bewildered. Strip? What strip? Is it the kind of stripping that I imagined? Big brother, you heard wrong. At the same time, everyone who saw the ranking was in an uproar. Then, they gathered in groups and rushed toward the residential area on the first floor. Instantly, the entrance of the outer residential area was so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Everyone was clamoring to challenge Bufang, who was ranked 100. And at this moment Bufang, who had become the target of everyone, entered the heaven and earth farmland with the enhanced abyssal chili sauce he had exchanged from the system. Chapter 1031. Heaven and Earth Farmland. 2 wooden chairs were placed in front of the wooden house. 2 lazy figures were lying on the reclining chairs. Bufang leisurely reclined on the chair, feeling the warm breeze in the farmland. It was so gentle that it felt like a woman's hand was massaging his skin. When the wind blew on the vermilion robe and caused it to rub against his skin, the slight itch made him feel a little sleepy. The heaven and earth spirit energy in the farmland was really thick. Perhaps it was because of the growing number of spirit materials. Since Nyo Han-san had nothing to do, the spirit fields had covered the entire farmland. In the pond, fishes and blood lobsters swam slowly. The pleasant and gentle water made the blood lobsters feel a little intoxicated. Brother Octopus relaxed its 8 claws in the pond. Those claws slightly swayed, looking like it was enjoying itself. Not far from them, 80 and the 8 treasures pig were galloping on the grassland, playing happily. The 3-eyed wild lion was lazily lying on the side, yawning from time to time. Ownerbu, are you here for a vacation? Nyo Han-san lazily asked while lying on the reclining chair. The heaven and earth farmland was indeed a good place for a vacation. The mountains were green, the water was clear, and the air was fresh. With no one to disturb him, it was really quiet and comfortable. Nyo Han-san liked this kind of peaceful life. Fighting and killing weren't his style. Of course not. I'm just here to think about a problem and to verify something. Bufang squinted, enjoying the gentle breeze as he spoke casually. Verify something? What's that? Old Bull will help you see. Bufang's words aroused Nyo Hansen's interest. He rolled his eyes, asking. Bufang opened his eyes, turning his head to look at him. The corners of his mouth rose. I've been waiting for you to say that. Bufang's strange expression made Nyo Han-san a little bewildered. A moment later, Nyo Han-san saw a crystal jar in Bufang's hand. That thing looked so familiar. Nyo Han-san squinted, looking at the crystal jar in Bufang's hand excitedly. He remembered that when Bufang cooked, he often added seasonings from the crystal jar. Could it be? Ownerbu, no problem. This old bull is willing to sacrifice everything for your great dishes, Nyo Han-san said solemnly. Bufang was bewildered. A moment later, he said faintly, Really? Give me a piece of beef rib. Nyo Han-san said, Ownerbu, you will lose old bull if you do this. Of course, Bufang didn't want Nyo Hansen's ribs. He was just joking. Standing up from the reclining chair, the dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in Bufang's hand. The knife light flickered and after a while, he set up the barbecue rack. A golden flame lotus flew out of Bufang's hand, falling on the grill. Nyo Han-san looked at the scorching flame, his heart palpitating. He could feel that Ownerbu's cooking skills had improved again. However, Nyo Han-san was more concerned about, was Ownerbu going to grill? It was so sweet. Sizzle. Bufang opened the lid of the crystal jar, taking out some of the improved abyssal chili sauce and smearing it on the grilled dishes. The steaming aroma soared up into the sky, along with a hint of spiciness. The spiciness of the improved abyssal chili sauce wasn't strong, but it could make people drown in it. Nyo Han-san widened his nose, standing in front of the grill and sniffing. Saliva dripped from his mouth. Shortly after Bufang finished grilling the dish, he handed it to Nyo Han-san. Have a taste. How does it taste? Compared to before, is there anything different? Bufang said. Nyo Han-san couldn't wait anymore. He took the skewer, flicked his tongue, and shoved all the meat into his mouth. In an instant, Nyo Hansen's eyes bulged. He stared at Bufang for a moment. Then, his face turned red in just a blink of an eye. His mouth was about to spurt fire. This kind of melancholic spiciness. What's going on? Bufang walked out of the heaven and earth farmland. He was happily humming a tune. It seemed he was in a good mood. Returning to his room, Bufang played with the dragon bone kitchen knife. After practicing his cutting immortal style, he prepared to sleep. However, as soon as he laid down, someone knocked on the door. Opening the door, Gongshu Ban and the others walked in with begrudging faces. Owner Bu, you still have the mood to sleep. Gongshu Ban looked at Bufang, who was wearing pajamas and was about to sleep. The corner of his mouth twitched. Owner Bu isn't panicking at all. If it was anyone else, they would have been scared out of their wits when they found out that they were ranked 100th on the genius ranking. Why not sleep? Bufang was puzzled. Gongshu Ban didn't know what to say about Bufang's thick nerve. She dragged Bufang to the window of the room. Pushing open the window and looking down, he saw that the entrance of the tavern was surrounded by a large number of Heaven Chief. A terrifying aura emanated from these people, transforming into a terrifying aura. These people are here for you, Owner Bu. They want to challenge you. Gongshu Ban said. Challenge me? It's so exciting. Anyway, why should I accept their challenge? Bufang glanced at Gongshu Ban. Gongshu Ban was dumbfounded. He didn't know how to answer Bufang's question. Go back, wash up, and sleep. There's a preliminary competition tomorrow, said Bufang. Gongshu Ban didn't know what to say. With a bewildered face, he was pushed out of the room by Bufang. Below, a group of Heaven Chief, who wanted to challenge Bufang, didn't see Bufang in the end. This made people feel a little sad. The next day, the Heaven Chief of the first layer went to the Heaven Tree Square in the inner circle. The preliminary competition would be held there. When the Heaven Chief of the first layer arrived, many Heaven Chief from the other layers looked at them with strange eyes. That gaze made the Heaven Chief of the first layer feel really uncomfortable. Bufang clasped his hands calmly. Xiao Bai followed behind him, and Cece followed beside Xiao Bai, looking at everything curiously. The first preliminary competition was divided into 10 groups. It would last for 5 days. After a cooking competition, the top 100 chefs from each group would enter the third layer's semifinals. These groups were messed up. Each group had contestants from different layers. Bufang was assigned to the 10th group. When the contestants saw Bufang's name in their group, they all revealed a cold and excited smile. Bufang's name had spread throughout the Heaven Chief circle even before the competition started. Everyone knew that a chef from the first layer had reached the 100th place on the talent list. Some people thought that it was a statistical error. Of course, some people thought that someone was purposely messing with Bufang. They wanted to make Bufang the target of public criticism, the target of everyone's trampling. After all, he was just a Heaven Chief from the first layer. What ability did he have to reach the 100th place on the talent list? What ability did he have to protect his ranking? However, it didn't matter to them. They only needed to know that if they could defeat Bufang, their names would resound throughout the Heaven Chief circle. No matter what, defeating a 100th Heaven Chief was a supreme honor. Gongshu Ban was assigned to the 6th group, and Xianyuan Xiao was assigned to the 9th group. At this moment, their faces were so solemn. They didn't want to be eliminated in the preliminary competition, so they had to treat this competition seriously. The Heaven Tree Square was really spacious, built around the Heaven Tree. The massive trunk of the Heaven Tree entered their eyes. The veined patterns on it were extremely obvious. Without a doubt, in this year's Heaven Chief competition, the most eye-catching event was Bufang's match. The arena of the 10th group was so crowded that not even a drop of water could pass through. Everyone wanted to see Bufang get trampled. Bufang was calm. Facing the crowd's gaze, he didn't panic at all. Within a few meters around him, there was no one. No one dared to come close to him. It's that kid's turn. He's finally here. The 100th place on the talent list. I'm so scared. Our group has a genius on the talent list. Why do I feel so excited? Seeing Bufang step on the arena, the surrounding people couldn't help but mock him. Of course, there were even more people whose eyes were burning with passion. If they could trample the 100th place on the talent list, their names would be known by everyone. If it was in the past, it would be impossible. But this time, the guy in the 100th place was actually the Heaven Chief from the first layer. As everyone knew, the Heaven Chief from the first layer was too weak to look at. Wearing the vermilion robe, Bufang slowly stepped on the arena. Each group had several arenas. The arena was the place for the competition. Moreover, there was a stove on the arena. However, the stove was not an immortal tool. It was just an ordinary stove. Normally, the Heaven Chief wouldn't choose to use the stove on the arena. Bufang's opponent was a Heaven Chief from the third layer. At this moment, the opponent's face was filled with ecstasy. He didn't expect that the first person to meet Bufang would be him. My luck is really good. As the first Heaven Chief to trample you, my name may be heard in this competition. The Heaven Chief grinned, squinting at Bufang. His eyes looked excited, as if he had found his prey. Congratulations! You're the first one to meet me. Bufang took out a velvet rope, unhurriedly tying his hair and folding the sleeves of his vermilion robe. Then, he looked at the Heaven Chief from the third layer and said casually. Bufang's calm attitude and tone bewildered the Heaven Chief. The latter squinted his eyes. Trash from the first layer. Now you're so arrogant? I hope you can still be that arrogant later. Please remember my name, Zhao Kuangsan. I'll be the first one to start your nightmare. Zhao Kuangsan grinned and said coldly. A wave of cheers resounded from the surroundings. Dong. A gong sounded. The referee in charge of this arena slowly appeared. He stood between the two of them and said a few things about the match. Then, he told them to start the cooking competition. The preliminaries had officially begun. Wait, all of a sudden, when Zhao Kuangsan turned around suddenly, Bufang called out to him. Zhao Kuangsan turned his head suspiciously, looking at Bufang. Do you know about the chef's challenge? Bufang asked. Chef's challenge? Zhao Kuangsan was bewildered. A moment later, Bufang turned to look at the arena, speaking casually. His voice wasn't loud, but it reverberated everywhere, making the Heaven Chief from Group 10 dumbstruck. I heard that many people want to challenge me. Good. To not disappoint you, I'll use the chef's challenge in each of my matches. I hope you guys don't panic. Bufang said. Chef's challenge? Bufang's words made many people bewildered. In the crowd, Xiao Buchuan's face changed. Chef's challenge? Was that fellow crazy? Of course, he knew what a chef's challenge was. When they were in the first layer of Heaven Chief realm, he had seen the despair his 5 friends had experienced. In a chef's challenge, the loser would have his kitchen knife taken away. Well, do you want to know what a chef's challenge is? You'll see it soon. Facing people's puzzled faces, Bufang explained. Then, his eyes fell on Zhao Kuangsan. I wanted to keep a low profile in this Heaven Chief competition, but your enthusiasm makes me want to be high profile. Let's start with you. Bufang looked at Zhao Kuangsan, speaking casually. Chapter 1032. Despair? Are you King kidding me? Zhao Kuangsan turned to look at Bufang. The other's words had enraged him. A mere Heaven Chief from the first layer dared to talk nonsense like that. He, Zhao Kuangsan, was really strong, and he had the chance to enter the top 200 of this year's Heaven Chief competition. However, the one who was ranked 100 on the talent list dared to talk to him like that. He even said that he was desperate. Alright, let's see who will make the other feel desperate. Rumble. Suddenly, a strange intent appeared in the sky, and the leaves of the immortal tree that covered the sky trembled. Bufang lifted his head to look, the corners of his mouth rising. The great paths will had acknowledged his chef's challenge. Now it was going to be interesting. Boom. Zhao Kuangsan's aura rocketed. A moment later, a massive kitchen knife appeared on his back. That knife was so big that it had many mysterious patterns carved on it. Little trash, I'm going to crush you. Zhao Kuangsan coldly looked at Bufang, saying that. A moment later, his mind flickered, and a stove with immortal energy hovering around it smashed in front of him. This stove was an immortal tool. Moreover, its level wasn't low. Bufang didn't have a stove, so he chose to use the one provided by the arena. There was no requirement for the dish he had to cook in the preliminary round. He just needed to defeat his opponent. Bufang had thought about what dish he wanted to cook. After thinking for a while, Bufang suddenly wanted to cook a dish that seemed to be very old in his memory. It was a kind of remembrance of his lost youth. Boom! Far from them, a flame emerged from Zhao Kuangsan's hand. It was a scarlet flame with a spirit, and its temperature was extremely high. As soon as it appeared, the temperature in the arena soared. It was an immortal flame, and it wasn't a low-ranked one at that. It's the 98th immortal flame on the immortal flame list. Zhao Kuangsan gazed at Bufang, smiling coldly. Do you feel desperate? Zhao Kuangsan asked. Facing Zhao Kuangsan's arrogance, Bufang opened his mouth. Below the stage, many Heaven Chiefs' attention was focused on the match between the two. Seeing that Bufang had opened his mouth, everyone was slightly taken aback. In the next moment, everyone was dumbfounded, because they found that flames were spurting out of Bufang's wide-open mouth. A golden fire lotus flew out from Bufang's mouth. That was an immortal fire. Many people had sharp eyes and specialized in studying the immortal fire ranking. They immediately recognized the golden fire lotus. Hiss! It's the 59th immortal fire, the golden lotus demonic fire. This guy actually has an immortal fire of this level. What I'm concerned about is, why did the immortal fire come out of his mouth? The surrounding spectators were all dumbfounded. Why did the immortal fire float out from Bufang's mouth? Bufang glanced at Zhao Kuangsan and didn't say anything, just twitching the corners of his mouth. In the next moment, with a flick of his finger, the golden lotus demonic flame entered the black turtle constellation Wok. Instantly, the wok boiled. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand, spinning unceasingly in his palm. Bufang tossed the ingredients into the air. The blade light flickered as it descended like a meteor, cutting the ingredients into tiny pieces and fine shreds. Not far from them, Zhao Kuangsan had begun to cook. Zhao Kuangsan's competence wasn't bad. His foundation was really solid, and his cooking skills were methodical. Sizzle! 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 He stirred the black wok, stirring the ingredients inside. Black clouds began to gather in the sky above the entire Heaven Tree Square. Although it was just a preliminary competition, everyone here was the Heaven Chief, and their dishes could trigger the Heaven's punishment. Black clouds arose above Bufang and Zhao Kuangsan's heads. As the competition had come to this moment, many people were so nervous and excited. They gazed at the two in the arena. Rumble! Boom! In the void, lightning bolts unceasingly move. Thunder dragons moved in the black clouds. Their terrifying pressure expanded unceasingly in the void. In the other arenas, the thunder dragons had already pounced. At this moment, each of the Heaven Chief was using their skills to resist the lightning punishment. In this competition, the competition didn't provide any lightning protection formation. The truly powerful Heaven Chief wasn't afraid of the lightning punishment. They all had their own skills to resist the lightning punishment. Some people crushed their jade talismans. Beams of light emerged around them, pushing the lightning punishment away. Some people summoned their earth immortal puppets to resist the lightning punishment. Some people seemed to have their own lightning protection formation. When the lightning struck, it automatically avoided them. It was like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, showing their divine abilities. Each of the Heaven Chief had used his or her lightning protection technique. The black clouds above Zhao Kuangsan's head had reached the peak, and the thunder dragons were faintly visible. At this moment, Zhao Kuangsan began to prepare his lightning protection technique. His mind flickered, and 2 gold earth immortal puppets emerged by his sides. To ensure that nothing would go wrong, Zhao Kuangsan decided to use 2 earth immortal puppets to resist the lightning punishment. In the distance, Bufang's face was calm as he was cooking. He seemed to be frying something in a wok. The golden oil was boiling, with white foam moving around. Bufang held the wok with one hand, putting it deep into the wok. Above his head, the black clouds rolled, turning into a vortex. Zhao Kuangsan's dish was done. He patted the stove, and the black wok in his hand spun. Eventually, he covered the wok, pouring the dish onto the plate. In the sky, the lightning rumbled and roared. Air! Stop the lightning punishment! Zhao Kuangsan shouted. All the people in the 10th group lifted their heads, gazing at the lightning punishment. All of a sudden, a faint voice resounded, drifted over, and resounded in Zhao Kuangsan's ears. Don't be afraid. Your lightning punishment won't fall, Bufang said faintly. Swish. The dish in Bufang's wok was fished out. He placed it on the wok, shaking it. Steam shot up into the sky. In the sky, the lightning punishment had reached its peak, roaring and falling. Are you here to make fun of me? Zhao Kuangsan looked at Bufang's calm face, the corners of his mouth twitching. How could the lightning punishment not fall? Do you want to make me laugh to death so that you can inherit my kitchen knife? His mind flickered, and the 2 earth immortal puppets shielded Zhao Kuangsan. Roar! The thunder dragons of the lightning punishment stormed, roaring and pouncing. At the same time, the thunder dragon above Bufang's head shot down without any suspense. The 2 thunder dragons bared their fangs and brandished their claws in the void. Then, under the watchful eyes of tens of thousands of people, they clashed. The thunder dragons killed each other. Dazzling light bloomed at this moment, illuminating people's eyes. What's going on? The lightning punishments are killing each other? OF*CK. What's going on? The thunder dragons are killing each other? At this moment, not only the Heaven Chief of Group 10 were surprised, but all the other Heaven Chief in the square were astonished. After all, among all the descending lightning dragons, the 2 that were fighting each other were the most conspicuous. Many people were bewildered, not knowing what was going on. Of course, some people were frightened looking at the scene. They were the Heaven Chief, who had gone to the first layer. Xiao Buchuan gawked, dropping his jaw as he watched the scene. It's a chef's challenge. That madman! Zhao Kuangsan's eyes shrank, looking at the dazzling void in a daze. Because of the collision of the thunder dragons, dazzling light bloomed there. The thunder dragons could kill each other? What was going on? The dazzling radiance lasted for a moment. A moment later, Zhao Kuangsan was shaken. He stooped, looking at the dish he had placed on the stove. The immortal energy around the dish was shaken off, and the plate with the dish was smashed. What? Zhao Kuangsan gawked, dropping his jaw. In the sky, the thunder dragon's collision had ended. Zhao Kuangsan's thunder dragon was torn apart. At the same time, Bufang's thunder dragon roared and descended, aiming at Bufang's head. Xiao Bai's figure appeared in front of Bufang. He opened his leaf-like palm, grabbing the thunder dragon. Then, he squeezed, and the thunder dragon was smashed. It turned into electric arcs, entering Xiao Bai's stomach. The dark clouds slowly dispersed. Bufang's dish was done, however. It seemed he didn't need the referee's judgment. He was the winner. Because Zhao Kuangsan's dish couldn't even pass the lightning punishment, its immortal energy was shattered. At first glance, people knew that Zhao Kuangsan was defeated. The people of Group 10 were dumbstruck. The referee was also bewildered. A moment later, the will of the great path descended. Zhao Guangsan's face paled in just a blink of an eye. The chef's challenge is over. The winner is Bufang and the loser's kitchen knife belongs to the winner. A voice that sounded like the primal chaos resounded. Everybody was so frightened. It was the will of the great path of the Heaven Chief realm. This chef's challenge was witnessed by the will of the great path of the Heaven Chief realm. Despair starts from you, Bufang said indifferently, twirling the dragon bone kitchen knife in his hand. He grabbed the oyster pancake, gently biting it. Crack! The oyster pancake was crushed, and its aroma arose, filling the entire place. The formation emerged, and the crystal knife cabinet appeared by Bufang. He patted the cabinet. As Zhao Guangsan's eyes were filled with tears, his kitchen knife flew toward Bufang, and Bufang put it into the cabinet. Chef's challenge. Is this the chef's challenge? Zhao Guangsan's body shivered. He regretfully punched the stove. If he knew the chef's challenge was like this, he would have been more serious and prepared better dishes. That way, he wouldn't have lost his kitchen knife. Regret. Hate. Crunch. Crunch. Bufang bit the oyster pancake, and the thick aroma diffused. As Bufang's cooking skills had improved, the oyster pancake today wasn't the same as it was in the past. The aroma seemed to have materialized, and it was more enticing than before. Sniffing the aroma, the audience felt the aura of the sea blowing on their faces. It was like huge waves pounding on them. He put away the black turtle constellation wok and the kitchen knife. Bufang clasped his hands, chewing the oyster pancake as he slowly walked down the stage. The referee was a little speechless, looking at Bufang's back as he left. It was the first time that the referee didn't need to taste the contestants' dishes. Looking at the referees in the other arenas, who were happily tasting the contestants' dishes, the referee felt like an invisible arrow had pierced his chest. Clatter. Bufang walked to the edge of the arena. He slowly turned his head, looking at the regretful Zhao Guangsan. You want to step on me to climb up, but you failed. Of course, you have to be punished. I'm actually a low-key person, but you've forced me to be high-profile, Bufang said. Then, he took another bite of the fragrant oyster pancake, walking down the stage. In this match, Bufang won without any suspense. And this match had stirred up an uproar among the people in Group 10. The concept of a chef's challenge had swept the entire place. The chef's challenge, which had been approved by the Great Path, had made people anxious. If they wanted to challenge Bufang, they had to have a chef's challenge. After Zhao Guangsan, Bufang had several more matches. The result hadn't changed. Bufang's lightning punishment had torn the opponent's lightning punishment. He had taken the opponent's kitchen knife. He had won. And, in these matches, the dishes that Bufang had cooked were exactly the same. They were all that fragrant oyster pancake. Instantly Bufang, whom people had thought was a joke, became unfathomable in just a blink of an eye. Thunder Dragon Bite, Chef's Challenge, Oyster Pancake. The three had formed people's impression of Bufang. The most terrible thing was, until now, no one knew how Bufang's dishes tasted. That was because the judges hadn't had a chance to taste Bufang's dishes. The 100th place on the talent list. He deserved the title. The people who had watched Bufang's matches now realized this fact in despair. After several matches, the Heaven Chief, whose kitchen knives had been confiscated, felt a wave of heartache and despair. Zhao Guangsan finally understood what Bufang meant when he said that the despair would start from him. Bufang's existence had made everyone in Group 10 feel despair. In the previous matches, Bufang had been called the Dark Horse Chef. And in this match, he wasn't called a dark horse anymore. He was called the Great Demon who had made all his opponents despair. And this despair had just begun. Chapter 1033. The next day Bufang came to the Heaven Tree Square. In the arena of Group 10, each Heaven Chief looked at Bufang with fear. The great demon, Bufang. This name had spread throughout the entire Group 10. Many Heaven Chief hoped that they wouldn't encounter Bufang. If they met Bufang, their kitchen knives would be taken away in the chef's challenge. They had seen the miserable situation of the contestants yesterday. Even Zhao Guangsan, who was from the 3rd layer, had his kitchen knife taken away. How could they, who were weaker than Zhao Guangsan, dare to face the great demon, Bufang? The group of people who had clamored yesterday had shut their mouths, looking at Bufang in fear. Now, they didn't covet Bufang's 100th rank on the list. With Bufang's power, he deserved it. Xiao Buchuan felt like vomiting blood. He had tried so hard to persuade his big brother, Xiao Buke, to secretly change the name of the 100th rank to Bufang. He wanted to make this fellow, who had made him lose face in this Heaven Chief competition. However, he didn't expect that he had helped Bufang become famous. Although Bufang's current strength was still nothing in the whole competition, he was still a nobody. However, in Group 10, he had become the great demon that everyone was afraid of. Tap, tap, tap. Bufang put his hands in the pockets of his vermilion robe, slowly stepping on the arena. This Heaven Chief competition was a little boring. However, the system's temporary task asked him to participate, so he still came. The temporary task asked him to enter the top 10, gaining the qualification to enter the space of the Heaven Tree. Moreover, he had to condense the Heart of Cooking path. What was the Heart of Cooking path? Until now, Bufang didn't know much about it. Thus, at this moment, Bufang felt a headache. Swoosh, a gust of wind blew past, sweeping up some fine sand on the arena. Bufang looked at the empty space in front of him and blinked. Where was his opponent? There were many matches in the preliminary round. Because there were too many participants, Bufang had to compete many times. However, he was already used to it. However, when he stood on the stage, his opponent did not appear. In the distance, the judge looked at Bufang with a strange expression. After a long time, he exhaled. Second floor contestant, Li Guangxi, forfeit. An uproar. The moment the judge's words came out, everyone went into an uproar. The Heaven Chief was stunned. Forfeit? How many years had it been since the Heaven Chief competition had a forfeit? Had Bufang, the great demon, become so terrifying? However, everyone also understood that forfeiting was actually the best choice. If they lost, their kitchen knives would still be confiscated. Losing the kitchen knife was like losing an arm. He couldn't display his culinary skills to the fullest. It was very difficult to go further. Thus, it was better to forfeit. Forfeit, Bufang smacked his lips. Shrugging, he casually walked off the stage, waiting for the next match. However, Bufang's next opponent also forfeited. His opponents all forfeited. Bufang didn't participate in any match today. He returned to the inn. The judge's mouth twitched. Looking at the expert sighing and turning around, Bufang was a little speechless. It was the first time he had encountered such a strange situation. The preliminary round of the Heaven Chief competition was in full swing. In each group, the cooking competition was ongoing. These days, Gongshu Ban was really exhausted. He had used almost all of his skills. It was a tough journey to the end. After 5 days of the preliminary round, Gongshu Ban felt like he had aged 10 years. Only after competing would he know how terrifying the geniuses of each layer were. His 6th group was considered good. There was no Heaven Chief from the 5th layer. In fact, in the preliminary round, most of the 5th layer's Heaven Chief didn't need to participate because they had the qualification to advance to the semifinals. The 5th layer's Heaven Chief was too monstrous. However, the 4th layer, the 3rd layer, and the 2nd layer also had monstrous geniuses. Their goal was to enter the top 10. Gongshu Ban had once watched a monstrous competition. Only after watching it did he understand what it meant to be crushed. That monstrous opponent couldn't even hold his kitchen knife, and he lost. That was because he had been completely suppressed by his From then on, Gongshu Ban's heart sank. It was the first time he knew how weak he was. In the first layer, he thought that he wasn't weak. However, when he compared himself, he felt hopeless. Fortunately, after the preliminary round, he managed to enter the top 100 of his group. 10 groups, a total of 1,000 Heaven Chief, were left to participate in the semi-finals of the third layer. Gongshu Ban was exhausted. However, he was still excited. It was late at night. Returning to the inn, the first layer's Heaven Chief looked dispirited, each of them showing a desperate face. These 5 days were like a nightmare that made them feel hopeless. They had seen the real powerful Heaven Chief, the real monstrous geniuses. Facing those existences, they didn't even have the courage to wield their kitchen knives. Gongshu Ban's heart sank. After asking around, he found out that the first layer's team was almost wiped out, except for him, who had entered the top 100 of his group. The others were eliminated. They couldn't advance to the semifinals. This was really a piece of news that made people despair. Gongshu Ban's heart sank. Xianyuan Xiaohui also failed? Anyway, it was within his expectation. Xianyuan Xiaohui's innate talent wasn't bad. However, the time she had been Heaven Chief was too short. His little sister, Gongshu Yun, was also called a genius, but she was defeated even faster. Because Gongshu Yun was assigned to a group. This group was called the Death Group. In that group, there were 5 fifth-layer Heaven Chief and many other monstrous geniuses from other layers. Gongshu Yun had already lost all hope. Her eyes were filled with a deathly gray color. She had almost lost confidence in her cooking skills. Oh right, where's owner Bu? Gongshu Ban suddenly remembered Bu Fang. With Bu Fang's skills, he shouldn't have been eliminated, right? At least, it shouldn't be a problem for him to enter the top 100 of his group. Hearing Gongshu Ban mention Bu Fang, the lobby of the inn quieted down. Everybody looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Owner Bu was also defeated? Looking at everybody's reaction, Gongshu Ban couldn't help but sigh. The pressure of these 5 days was too much. He didn't have the time and energy to care about Bu Fang's matter. And now, from their expressions, Bu Fang should have failed too. Sigh. In this year's Heaven Chief competition, the hope was all on him. So much pressure, cough, cough. The great demon, he. Oh, owner Bu, he. These days, he's been staying in his room. A Heaven Chief, who was in the same group as Bu Fang, said awkwardly. Speaking of the name the Great Demon, he was a little absent-minded. It was a legendary name. The Great Demon? You mean Owner Bu? Gongshu Ban was bewildered, asking suspiciously. Creak. The door to Bu Fang's room suddenly opened. Clasping his hands, he slowly walked out. Neither hurried nor slow, he walked to the lobby. Seeing Gongshu Ban, Bu Fang couldn't help but nod. How is it? Not bad, right? Struggling to squeeze into the top 100 in the group. Gongshu Ban sighed. Then, his strange eyes looked at Bu Fang. Where's owner Bu? Me. Bu Fang was bewildered, also sighing. It's hard to explain in a few words. Bu Fang shook his head. His expression made Gongshu Ban's eyes shrink. Could it be the number 100 in the talent list must have brought a lot of trouble to owner Bu? Gongshu Ban showed a sympathetic look. Remembering the time when he and owner Bu competed in the Land of Inheritance, it seemed like it was just yesterday. Bu Fang clasped his hands, sighing again. Yeah. This title has brought a lot of trouble. I'm such a low-key person. Gongshu Ban walked to Bu Fang, patting Bu Fang's shoulder. Owner Bu, don't be discouraged. You're still young. We still have a chance in the next competition. Don't worry. I will carry your faith and move forward. I will definitely enter the top 300 in the competition. I won't lose the face of our Heaven Chief realm. Gongshu Ban's eyes focused as he said solemnly. He was talking to Bu Fang, as well as the Heaven Chief on the first floor. He wanted to build people's confidence again. Good luck. I'm optimistic about you. Bufang patted Gongshu Ban's shoulder, nodding. In the distance, the Heaven Chief, who was in the same group as Bufang, had his mouth twitch. This the great demon was AF** King Drama Queen. Indeed, the number 100 in the talent list had brought him a lot of trouble. His opponents didn't dare to compete with him, so they all gave up. Would he die if he didn't show off? The Heaven Chief didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The gloomy feeling in his heart dissipated. You guys continue chatting. I'm going out for a walk. Tomorrow I'll leave the second floor. I have to walk around, said Bufang. Go relax. Don't be discouraged. Owner Bu's future is limitless, said Gongshu Ban. A moment later, he saw Bufang turn around and leave. That, young Master Gongshu. A Heaven Chief looked at Gongshu Ban's sorrowful face, wanting to say something but hesitating. Don't say it. We can't be discouraged. Our first floor is weak. But we have to be confident. If there's a will, there's a way. Gongshu Ban faced everyone, clenching his fists. Young Master Gongshu, I just want to say, the great demon has advanced to the semi-finals, said the Heaven Chief, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Advanced? Our first floor's Heaven Chief has such an excellent seedling like the great demon? Gongshu Ban was bewildered. The great demon is Owner Bu. He was the first in his group, stepping on countless people who had given up to advance. That immortal chef smacked his lips, organizing his thoughts before speaking. Gongshu Ban narrowed his eyes, looking at the Heaven Chief, feeling a little confused. A moment later, he clutched his chest, as though an invisible arrow had pierced it. He was caught off guard by Bufang's pretentious act. Owner Bu's identity was a drama queen. Long story my A**s. Tap tap tap. The second floor of the Heaven Chief's world was huge, at least a little bigger than the first floor. Perhaps it was because it was stronger, but the area of the Immortal City was much bigger than the Immortal City of the first floor. Bufang slowly walked in the Immortal City. On the streets of the Immortal City, just like the first floor, there were many restaurants, and the air was filled with the rich aroma of food. In these restaurants, Bufang saw many Heaven Chief cooking. Indeed, compared to the first and second floors, the cooking skills were several levels higher. Bufang clasped his hands, walking on the street. The people coming and going made him feel very happy. The aroma of food, the pedestrians tasting the food. It made Bufang a little infatuated. All of a sudden, Bufang's footsteps halted. He slightly lifted his head, looking into the distance. There, several figures blocked Bufang's figure. In front of him were 2 men and 2 women, 2 young couples. The men were handsome, and the women were elegant. The 4 of them smiled at Bufang. Oh! Group 10's the Great Demon, Heaven Chief ranked 100th on the talent list. Is that you? A woman nestled in a man's arms looked at Bufang, asking faintly. Big Brother Buke, I heard that the great demon could enter the talent list because of you. Why didn't you make his rank higher? He's only ranked 99th, just 1 rank higher than this imposter. It's so embarrassing. Another woman nestled in the arms of a tall, handsome man lifted her head to look at that man. Bufang furrowed his brows as he looked at the 4 people who were showing off their affection in front of him. 99, what business do you have with me? It's not a good day today, so please don't go in pairs. I'm afraid I can't control my power. Bufang gently exhaled, his face expressionless. Chapter 1034. What nonsense is this kid talking about? There were 4 people in front of Bufang. Hearing Bufang's words, they were somewhat dumbfounded. What the hell was the Great Desolation Force? What did it have to do with today's event? Of course, Bufang didn't bother to explain. He just calmly looked at the 4 people in front of him, wanting to see what they wanted to do. 99th Big Sister? The woman by Xiao Buke's side was instantly stunned. In the next moment, her fair face instantly flushed red, and her eyes surged with rage. "Who are you calling big sister?" The woman stared at Bufang as if she was about to shoot out lightning. Xiao Buke raised his hand and patted the woman's soft back, smiling faintly. "Your Excellency, aren't you curious about who put you on the genius list? The genius list contains the names of all the geniuses in this year's Heaven Chief competition. Only the real geniuses can be on that list. Why do you think you're on that list?" Xiao Buke squinted at Bufang. "Maybe someone is jealous of my handsomeness." Bufang knitted his brows, rubbing his chin as he said seriously. "Jealous of your handsomeness?" Xiao Buke almost spurted out a mouthful of blood. Could he not talk nonsense so seriously? However, the 100th place. It seems that this person's jealousy isn't enough. "He didn't see through my appearance and see my true qualities," said Bufang. The four people's faces became somewhat strange. This the great demon was not a fool. "To tell you the truth, the one who put you on the genius list is me," Xiao Buke said. Bufang's eyes became strange, staring at Xiao Buke. "So you're jealous of my handsomeness?" Xiao Buke's face froze. Could they have a proper conversation? "I thought that the 100th place on the genius list would make you the target of everyone, but it seems that you're not bad. You've actually defeated many challenges from the Heaven Chief, and even got the title of the Great Demon," Xiao Buke said lightly. "However, your luck is quite good. You were assigned to a trashy group. However, you won't be so lucky in the semifinals. When the time comes, I hope I can personally crush you. Brother Buke, there's no need for you to take action against this kind of trash. I can crush him. He's just a fake top 100. The woman stared coldly at Bufang and said coldly, "Here, I'll give you a piece of advice. You'd better scram back to the first level with your tail between your legs. Otherwise, you'll feel true despair in the days to come," Xiao Buke said. Bufang looked at him and twitched the corner of his mouth. "Every time someone tells me to feel despair, they really feel despair. Also, from the looks of it, you seem to know a lot. Let me ask you a question. What is the heart of cooking path?" Bufang asked faintly. Xiao Buke and the others were stunned. Then, the four of them looked at each other and laughed in disdain. "I didn't expect you to know about the heart of cooking path. What a pity. The heart of cooking path isn't something a trash like you can imagine. It's something you need to look up to." The four of them didn't explain much to Bufang. They laughed and left. Bufang was a little speechless. He put both of his hands into his pockets, then continued to move forward. Heaven Chief World, top floor. In front of the wooden house, Yaya wore a pure white robe, her blonde hair coiled up. She stood in front of the house, looking incomparably noble. Her eyes were calm, and her body seemed to emit light. A moment later, beams of light appeared in front of the wooden house. Four figures suddenly appeared in front of her. The appearances of these four figures could not be seen clearly. One could only vaguely make out some blurry shadows. They seemed to be talking to Yaya. After a while, they scattered, disappearing in front of the wooden house. Yaya had a headache, rubbing her glabella. "Those four city lords are really troublesome. I can't believe they want to trouble that dog," Yaya sighed, then turned around and entered the wooden house. The Heaven Chief World was divided into 5 layers, and each layer was a great world. The third layer was a vast ocean, and in the center of the ocean was a large island. The Heaven Tree towered above the big island. The entire immortal city was built on this big island. The semi-finals of the Heaven Chief World competition would be held in this immortal city on the third layer. There were 1,000 contestants in the semi-finals, and they were formed from the top 100 of the 10 groups in the preliminary round. However, the rules of the semi-finals were different from the preliminary round. The semi-finals had 2 rounds. The first round was the elimination round, and the second round was the ranking round. The elimination round would eliminate 500 people, and the second round would rank the remaining 500 people. The top 100 could enter the semifinals. The rules were simple. The competition would last for 3 days. However, Bufang seemed to have nothing to do. Since he was the first in his group, Bufang could skip the elimination round and go directly to the ranking round. Thus, on the first day, Bufang didn't even need to go to the competition. However, at Gongshu Ban's request, he still went to watch Gongshu Ban's match. Since they were the Heaven Chief of the same layer, of course, he had to cheer for him. Gongshu Ban had to participate in the elimination round. If he wanted to enter the ranking round, he had to fight his way through the elimination round. It could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be difficult. Because who knew what kind of opponent Gongshu Ban would face in the elimination round? However, Gongshu Ban was confident in himself. His goal was to enter the top 200, so he had to work hard to defeat his opponents. In fact, Gongshu Ban had worked hard. In the elimination round, he had defeated 2 opponents consecutively. However, when he met his last opponent, it was the beginning of his despair. Bufang had also watched that match. However, because he had watched it, Bufang felt a little strange. Gongshu Ban's opponent was a Heaven Chief in a black cloak. According to the information, this Heaven Chief came from the 4th layer. Facing this opponent, Gongshu Ban was defeated. He didn't even have the courage to hold his knife. It was a direct suppression, and that black-cloaked man gave Bufang an extremely strange feeling. Heart of Cooking Path? Bufang suddenly thought of something, furrowing his brows. According to the system's description, only the Heart of Cooking Path could make someone unable to lift their knife. Did that black-cloaked Heaven Chief have the Heart of Cooking Path? But why would the Heaven Chief, who had the Heart of Cooking Path, participate in the elimination round? This was what made Bufang suspicious. Gongshu Ban was defeated, unable to enter the ranking round. His mind was on the verge of collapse. He had persisted for a long time, but in the end, he couldn't reach his ideal. The ideal was great, but the reality was too cruel. Except for Bufang, the Heaven Chief of the 1st layer was almost wiped out. Gongshu Ban was even more devastated. It was because of the last match, which had created a shadow in his heart. Facing his opponent, he didn't even have the courage to hold his knife. This feeling was too terrifying. The gap between the Heaven Chief of the 1st layer and the other layers. Was it really that big? Facing Gongshu Ban's mental breakdown, Bufang didn't know what to say. He could only pat Gongshu Ban's shoulder. "Owner Bu, we can only rely on you now," Gongshu Ban said to Bufang, his eyes hollow. The ranking round had begun. Bufang finally had a match. Gongshu Ban had become a spectator. However, he had placed all his hopes on Bufang. He hoped that Bufang could enter the top 200. The ranking round and the elimination round were different. The ranking round was actually the main event of the Heaven Chief's competition. The rules of the competition had changed a lot. The ranking round would start from 3 aspects: the Heaven Chief's cultivation base, the Heaven Chief's knife skills, and the final grade of the immortal dishes would be judged to determine the final ranking. Next, 1st layer Heaven Chief Bufang. The referee called out Bufang's name. The Heaven Chief, who was watching the competition, quieted down at this moment. Regarding the name Bufang, some people were unfamiliar with it, but some people weren't. The legendary performance of the 10th group in the preliminary round had made many people give Bufang the title of the Great Demon. Any opponent who had competed with him would be left with an impression of despair. And now, it was finally Bufang's turn in the ranking round. Many contestants from the 10th group suddenly hoped to see the scene of Bufang being crushed. There were 50 people competing with Bufang in the ranking round. 50 people stood on the vast arena, facing the judges who were all 3rd-grade immortal chefs sitting on the high platform. The first round is to show your cultivation base. As a Heaven Chief, cooking skills are the key, but without a profound cultivation base, it's hard to have profound cooking skills. Everyone should know this, right? That's why cultivation base is a big part of the score. I hope you can show your cultivation base well. In front of you, there is a divine talisman to test your cultivation base. This talisman can accurately test your true energy cultivation base and mental force, the referee said. 50 people stood on the arena. In front of each of them was a stone platform, on which there was a green divine talisman. This talisman was a tool to test one's cultivation base. Around the arena, a group of Heaven Chief gathered to watch the fun. Among them, some were eliminated, and of course, some had advanced. There were even some contestants who had finished the ranking round. Everyone looked at the situation in the field curiously. Bufang, on the other hand, had become the center of attention. Of course, since Bufang was the first in his group to advance, the contestants who were going to take the test with him weren't weak. Among them, there was even the fifth layer's Heaven Chief. The fifth layer's Heaven Chief was an unreachable existence in the hearts of all the Heaven Chief. Whether it was resources or cultivation conditions, the fifth floor was much better than the other floors. Thus, in Bufang's group, the real focus was the fifth layer's Heaven Chief. As for Bufang, many people saw him as a joke. Gongshu Ban's face paled. The ranking round also tested one's cultivation base? What was Bufang's cultivation base like? Of course, it was unsightly, 1-star true immortal realm cultivation base. Among the many Heaven Chief, it could be said that he was the lowest existence. With this kind of cultivation base, how could he get a good ranking in the ranking round? It seemed, the first layer's Heaven Chief would be completely wiped out this time. This time, the performance of the first layer's contestants was even worse than the previous years. Now, the test begins. First round, True Energy Level Test. Contestants, please send your true energy into the Divine Talisman. The referee, who was in charge of the test, opened his mouth and said. On the high platform, the 5 judges watched with great interest. Buzz, as soon as the referee's voice fell, true energy shot up to the sky on the high platform. Terrifying waves of energy expanded unceasingly. At this moment, every contestant tried their best to show their cultivation base. Beams of light shot out from the divine talisman. In the sky, a pitch-black stone tablet emerged. That stone tablet stretched across the sky. As the contestants sent their true energy into the divine talisman, the stone tablet would show their ranking. Bufang held the divine talisman, sending his true energy into it. His body suddenly trembled. Bufang curiously lifted his head, looking at the beam of light above his head. The strength of the contestant's cultivation base would be reflected by the height of the beam of light above his head. Bufang looked pensive. A moment later, he turned his head to look around. The contestants around him all had beams of light above their heads, and the height of those beams was much higher than Bufang's. The Heaven Chief, who could reach this step, didn't have a weak cultivation base or cooking skill. Most of them were the peak existences among immortal chefs, and they could cook third-grade immortal dishes. The weakest among them was at 2-star true immortal realm. Thus, among the thousands of beams of light, Bufang's beam of light was really eye-catching, and the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer had a beam of light that was 15 meters high, which was like a crane in a flock of chickens. No comparison, no harm. After the audience saw the result, they couldn't help but burst into an uproar. And the Heaven Chief, who had been waiting for Bufang's performance, didn't hesitate to laugh at him. The stone tablet also showed the contestants' cultivation base rankings. Gongshu Ban was almost desperate. Seeing Bufang's name in the last place, his entire face turned ashen. Bufang dispersed his beam of light, his face incomparably calm. The contestants around him all looked at Bufang with disdain in their eyes. That kind of cultivation base was really ridiculous. It was ridiculous that a Heaven Chief with such a level could reach this level. And the Heaven Chief from the 10th group, who couldn't breathe because of Bufang, didn't hesitate to mock him. This time, the great demon was really speechless. Now we'll start the second test, the mental force test. Please hold the divine talisman and guide your mental force into it. The referee's face was serious as he said. A moment later, each contestant guided their mental force into the divine talisman. Some of them even sneered at Bufang as they guided him. They wanted to see Bufang make a fool of himself. Under normal circumstances, the mental force level and the true energy level were directly proportional. The stronger the true energy, the stronger the mental force. Of course, there were some exceptions. Some people's true energy level was weak, but their mental force wasn't necessarily weak. Even if their mental force was strong, it wouldn't be by much. At 1-star true immortal realm, the highest mental force one could reach was 2-star true immortal realm. It was already an incredible situation. Under normal circumstances, Bufang would very likely become the laughingstock of the crowd, just like his true energy level. He gently exhaled. Bufang reached out his hand, holding the divine talisman. The corners of his mouth slightly rose. In his mind, 3 bestial roars resounded. Comparing mental force, he had never been afraid of anyone. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.